Chapter 1199. Enhanced Version BAM. Inside the room where Ningyu and Supremacy Spiritual Su were in the imperial palace of the Xia Kingdom. Ningyu's closed eyes snapped open as a muffled sound rang out in his sea of consciousness. Early stage, 8th grade soul power. After a period of devouring and refining, Ningyu's soul power had finally advanced to early stage 8th grade. I can take this opportunity to raise my soul power to mid-stage 8th grade. There was a lot of pure soul power in the soul jade pendant. Ningyu had only devoured 1/3 of it, and his soul power had already risen from mid-stage 7th grade to early stage 8th grade. One could imagine that once the remaining 2/3 of pure soul power was completely devoured, his soul power would most likely reach mid-stage 8th grade. However, just as Ningyu was about to refine the remaining 2/3 of pure soul power, Supremacy Spiritual Su suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His body, which was already weak, became even weaker now. Oh no! Sensing Supremacy Spiritual Su's aura fluctuations, Ningyu did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly placed both hands on Supremacy Spiritual Su's back. Early stage 8th grade soul power poured into Supremacy Spiritual Su's body. When his soul power was only mid-stage 7th grade, even if Ningyu used all his strength, he could not help Supremacy Spiritual Su completely expel the Emperor Qi from his body. Now that the strength of his soul force had risen to the early 8th grade, Ningyu was able to deal with the Emperor God Qi in Sage Ling Su's body with ease. Wisps of Emperor Qi constantly poured out of Supremacy Spiritual Su's body. As soon as the Emperor Qi came into contact with the air, it completely turned into nothingness. At this rate, I'll probably be able to expel all the Emperor Qi from Supremacy Spiritual Su's body in a day. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu did not care about the consequences and focused on helping Supremacy Spiritual Su expel the Emperor Qi. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 10 hours had passed. When the 11th hour arrived, Ningyu suddenly felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it, it's the enhanced version of Emperor Divine Qi. Cursing inwardly, Ningyu's expression was extremely ugly. After 10 hours of continuous expulsion, the Emperor God Qi in Lord Spiritual Su's body had been almost completely expelled. As long as the last wisp of Emperor Divine Energy was expelled, Lord Lingxiu would be able to fully recover. Who would have thought that something would go wrong at the crucial moment? The last wisp of Emperor Divine Aura was extremely corrosive. Even Ningyu's level 8 soul force couldn't do anything to it. Not only that, if it weren't for Ningyu's wits to retract the soul force from Sovereign Spiritual Su's body, his soul force would have been completely corroded. Let's fight. Since he had decided to help Supremacy Lingxiu expel the Emperor Divine Aura, Ningyu would not go back on his word. With a thought, Ningyu brought out the remaining 2/3 of pure soul power in the jade pendant and sent it into Venerable Spirit Void's body. Whoosh! Whoosh! With the help of so much pure soul power, Ningyu completely relaxed his mind and began to control his soul power to fight against the enhanced version of Emperor Divine Aura. At first, the two sides were evenly matched, but as time went on, Ningyu gradually gained the upper hand. It was just that this upper hand was very hard to come by, and it came at the cost of consuming soul power. Every time the enhanced version of Emperor Divine Aura was reduced, the remaining soul power in the jade pendant would be consumed. This state lasted for another 10 hours. During this time, Venerable Spirit Void spat out countless mouthfuls of blood, and even his face became very pale. Then, another mouthful of blood sprayed out. Venerable Spirit Void's eyes suddenly opened, and there was a hint of shock between his brows. Aye. He used a little of his perception to probe the condition of his body. When Venerable Spirit Void found that all the Emperor God aura in his body had been expelled, he even stuttered a little. Ningyu, how did you do it? Venerable Spirit Void's mouth opened wide in surprise. If someone had told Venerable Spirit Void before that the Emperor God aura in his body could be expelled, Venerable Spirit Void would definitely have called that person a fool. But now the truth was in front of him. Ning Yu, a third-grade early human, no, it should be a third-grade peak human supreme, had actually completely expelled the Emperor God aura in his body. Moreover, Venerable Spirit Void knew better than anyone that in addition to the Emperor God aura in his body, there was also a strand of enhanced Emperor God aura. Even this could not stop Ningyu. One could imagine how terrifying Ningyu was. Senior Spirit Void, you don't have to worry about other things. What you need to do now is to recover to your peak state as soon as possible. Ningyu did not directly answer Venerable Spirit Void's question, but said in a low voice, because I can feel that Venerable Great Wilderness and Venerable Blade Mountain will definitely come back after a period of time. At that time, we will all have to rely on you. Humph. At my peak, killing Venerable Blade Mountain would be as easy as chopping vegetables. Venerable Spirit Void snorted and said proudly. Sigh. Just as he finished speaking, Venerable Spirit Void sighed and said slowly, I'm no longer at my peak state. I will need at least 2 to 3 days to recover. 2 to 3 days? Ningyu furrowed his brows slightly. What if there are Shenyang pills? I can give you a lot of them. Shaking his head, Venerable Spirit Void said, although Shenyang pills can help with recovery, they can't save much time. What do you mean? Ningyu asked doubtfully. In other words, if you give me 1 Shenyang pill or give me 3 or even 30 Shenyang pills, the difference isn't that big. I'll need 2 or 3 days to recover to my peak condition. Reverend Spiritual Su said, my situation is a little special. It's different from others. All right, I'll give you 3 Shenyang pills. Stay here and recover as soon as possible. After some thought, Ningyu took out 3 Shenyang pills and threw them to Venerable Spirit Void. Swish, swish, swish. After throwing the 3 Shenyang pills, Ningyu stomped on the ground and left the room instantly. Piak, piak. Receiving the 3 Shenyang pills, the doubt on Venerable Spirit Void's face became even more obvious. Just how did Ningyu manage to purge the Emperor God Qi from his body? Furthermore, it was purged so cleanly that even the strengthened version of the Emperor God Qi could be dealt with. Could it be that Ningyu had been pretending to be weak all along? Venerable Spirit Void did not know, but Supremacy Spirit Void was certain that Ningyu would definitely not harm him. After all, given his current condition, it would be a piece of cake for Ningyu to kill him. I hope I can recover as soon as possible. Creak! Once the door was closed, Venerable Spirit Void cleared his mind of all distracting thoughts and tossed a Shenyang pill into his mouth. Once the Shenyang pill entered his stomach, Venerable Spirit Void hurriedly channeled his mental cultivation to refine the Shenyang pill. Sha! At the same time, Ningyu had already torn through the void and arrived at the secret chamber where the Sword of Evil and Ouyang were. Other than the Sword of Evil and Ouyang, the Dark Emperor and Xiaolon were also present. Chapter 1200. Refining a Puppet. Ningyu, you've come at just the right time. Come take a look at this formation. Seeing Ningyu walk in, Dan Guzi hastily said, What's going on? Asked Ningyu as he walked forward. This formation is called the Heaven and Earth New Infinity Formation, but I threw in 4,000 or 5,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals, and it still showed no signs of activating, explained Dan Guzi. I was just thinking about whether or not I should throw in another 5,000 sovereign-grade origin crystals. What? The Heaven and Earth New Infinity Formation. Ning Yu's expression changed, and he quickened his pace to the side of the altar. He began to carefully examine it. After a long time, Ningyu took a deep breath, his expression grave. Looking at the 4 stone pillars and then back at Dan Guzi, Ningyu said, Dan Guzzi, do you think you can activate the heaven and earth new infinity formation just by being the eye of the formation? To tell you the truth, you're far too naive. What do you mean? Asked Dan Guzzi. What you understand of the heaven and earth new infinity formation is just the tip of the iceberg. Ning Yu continued, the heaven and earth new infinity formation requires a great deal of energy to activate, and it also requires a person to be the eye of the formation. Correct. Dan Guzzi nodded, looking suspiciously at Ning Yu. You only know one thing, but not the other. Once the heaven and earth new infinity formation is activated, you, as the eye of the formation, will be instantly annihilated, said Ning Yu. I know that. Dan Guzzi's expression became resolute. In order to kill the grand desolation and saber mountain venerable, sacrificing me is worth it. Fool, shouted Ning Yu. It seems you didn't understand my meaning. I'm saying that once the heaven and earth new infinity formation is activated, you will immediately be annihilated. Your intentions are good, but you're using them in the wrong place. As he spoke, Ning Yu found a pen and paper out of nowhere and wrote down dozens of items on it. Handing the paper to Dan Guzzi, Ning Yu said, Give me 2 copies of everything on this. I have a use for them. This. Looking at the things on the paper, Dan Guzzi hesitated. There are many things that even I have never heard of. Pa! Ning Yu slapped his head and said, Look at my memory. I'll write another one for you. There were many things on the paper. Ning Yu had written them according to what he had written 20 years ago. After 20 years of evolution, many things had changed their names, so Ning Yu had to write them all again. When do you want it? Dan Guzzi said as he took the paper. The sooner, the better. Ning Yu replied, At the latest, we must gather everything by tomorrow. Understood. Nodding, Dan Guzzi waved his hands, tearing through the void and vanishing. Once Dan Guzzi left, the Dark Emperor said, Ning Yu, what did you have Dan Guzzi look for? It's very mysterious. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Sword of Evil, stay behind. The rest of you go stand guard outside. Other than Dan Guzzi, don't let anyone in. Waving his hand, Ning Yu said, In a moment of life and death, the heaven and earth limitless formation must be activated. If you want to go, then go. What's there to be so arrogant about? After rolling his eyes at Ning Yu, the Dark Emperor left the secret chamber without looking back. As for Xia Lan and Ouyang Luan, they followed closely behind the Dark Emperor and disappeared. Soon, only the Sword of Evil and Ning Yu were left in the room. Ning, the Sword of Evil, opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but he didn't. I know what you want to ask. I can only tell you. You'll know when Dan Guzzi returns. Ning Yu directly sat down cross-legged and took out a Shengyang pill, tossing it into his mouth. Crunch! The Shengyang pill melted in his mouth and quickly entered Ning Yu's body. Spirit transformation art. Ning Yu didn't dare tarry. He immediately circulated the spirit transformation art and began to refine the Shengyang pill. Ning Yu had used up a great deal of energy to heal, venerate, spirit void. Whether it was his spiritual strength or Yuan Qi, both were mostly exhausted. He could use this time to rest while Dan Guzzi was looking for something. There wasn't much time left for Ning Yu. Seeing Ning Yu's actions, the Sword of Evil's mouth twitched. Ning, you didn't want him to stay behind just to watch, right? Every minute, throw in a sovereign grade origin crystal. As long as I don't tell you to stop, you can't stop. As if reading the Sword of Evil's mind, Ning Yu's words rang out in the Sword of Evil's ears. All right. Sword Evil didn't dare to tarry. He hastily grabbed the bag of holding Dan Guzzi had left behind and tossed it into the altar according to Ning Yu's instructions. Crunch! With every minute that passed, the Sword of Evil would throw in a sovereign grade origin crystal. Time passed. In the first few hours, there were no changes to the altar. 5 hours later, 300 sovereign grade origin crystals. 5 hours later, Sword Nefarious had thrown out a total of 300 Emperor-grade origin crystals. Stop for half an hour. After that, throw in 2 Sovereign-grade origin crystals every minute. Ning Yu's voice once more rang out in the Sword of Evil's ears. Venerable Sword Evil had no intention of disobeying Ning Yu, and he did as he was told. Swish! Time passed. In the blink of an eye, another 5 hours passed. 5 hours, 600 Sovereign-grade origin crystals. Due to the increase in speed, another 600 Sovereign-grade origin crystals disappeared from the interspatial pouch. Rest for half an hour. After half an hour, throw in 4 Sovereign-grade origin crystals every minute. Ning Yu's voice rang out in the Sword of Evil's ears once more. The Sword of Evil's face was filled with black lines. At this rate, no matter how many Sovereign-grade origin crystals he had, it wouldn't be enough. Stop until Dan Guzi appears. Fortunately, after only an hour, the Sword of Evil had thrown out 240 Sovereign-grade origin crystals before Ning Yu told the Sword of Evil to stop. Letting out a long breath, the Sword of Evil put away the interspatial pouch and obediently retreated to the other side. In truth, the Sword of Evil was really afraid that Ning Yu wouldn't stop. After all, there weren't many Sovereign-grade origin crystals left in the interspatial pouch. Creak! After another few hours, the door to the secret chamber was slowly pushed open from the outside. Dan Guzi walked in with large strides. Ning Yu, I've found the things you wanted me to find. I've prepared 3 portions of each item. As soon as he entered the secret chamber, Dan Guzi tossed the interspatial pouch to Ning Yu. Pa! Catching the interspatial pouch, Ning Yu said to Dan Guzi, I need your help. Help with what? Dan Guzi was slightly taken aback. The thing I asked you to find is used to refine puppets. Ning Yu said, You've prepared 3 portions in total. You, me, and the Sword of Evil, 1 each. We must refine puppets as soon as possible. Puppets! The Sword of Evil and Dan Guzi exchanged a glance, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Refining puppets? Could it be that Ning Yu knew how to refine puppets? Swish! Swish! Chapter 1201. Kill! Rumble! As the information entered their minds, the Sword of Evil and Dan Guzi's expressions changed from confusion to shock. After the shock, Dan Guzi said, It really is the method to refine a puppet. However, your method is a little special. It is indeed very special. Ordinary puppets aren't this complicated to refine. The Sword of Evil added, This puppet of yours is not only complicated to refine, but it will only be at the manifestation realm after it's successfully refined. In the Sword of Evil's opinion, even if you wanted to refine a puppet, it should be at the Paragon realm. What was the use of creating a blessed realm puppet? Ning Yu, do you not have enough materials? After some thought, the Sword of Evil hesitated. If it's not enough, I can go out and look for more. It's not a problem with the materials. Just follow the method I told you. Don't ask anything else. Ning Yu didn't say anything else. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and split the materials into 3 portions. He gave 1 to Dan Guzi and 1 to the Sword of Evil. After receiving the materials, Dan Guzi and the Sword of Evil tactfully didn't ask any more questions. Since they trusted Ning Yu, they might as well trust him to the end. This was a crucial moment of life and death. If the heaven and earth infinite array couldn't be activated and the great desolation and Saber Mountain Venerable returned, the consequences would be unthinkable. In order not to end up in such a miserable state, the Sword of Evil and Dan Guzi unleashed their full strength. The speed at which they refined the puppet wasn't any slower than Ning Yu's. Time passed quickly. An hour later, the puppet that Ning Yu and the other 2 had refined was in its embryonic form. On the surface, Ning Yu's puppet was the most perfect. It didn't look much different from a real person. The only difference was that its face wasn't visible. Dan Guzi, Sword of evil, refine the puppets according to my size. After saying that, Ning Yu placed his hands on the face of the puppet and began to shape it. Chi. The shaping process was relatively long. It took Ning Yu a full 2 hours to mold the puppet's face. Looking at the face of the puppet Ning Yu had refined, Danguzi and the Sword of Evil's jaws dropped. The reason why Ning Yu made them refine puppets and taught them the method was so that they could refine puppets that were similar to him and use them to deceive the heaven and earth limitless array. This was because the puppets that Ning Yu had created looked exactly like Ning Yu. The only difference was the difference in aura and temperament. Rumble. However, after Ning Yu injected some of his aura into the puppet, the difference in aura completely disappeared. The puppet that Ning Yu had refined could be called Ning Yu No. 2. Similar, they were too similar. They were completely carved out of the same mold. Sword of Evil, Danguzi, what are you waiting for? Hurry up. Seeing that the Sword of Evil and the others were still in a daze, Ning Yu immediately said, I can sense experts heading to the capital. If I'm not wrong, it's definitely Venerable, Great Desolation, and Venerable Saber Mountain. What? Hearing this, the Sword of Evil and Danguzi hurriedly spread out their perception to probe the capital. Nothing? After probing, Danguzi frowned. Where did someone come from? I didn't sense anything either. The Sword of Evil nodded. Don't waste words. I told you to refine, so do it, Ning Yu said in a low voice. The reason why Ning Yu could sense Venerable, Great Desolation, and Venerable Saber Mountain's auras was because of the law of space and the sapling. The law of space kept making noises, and the sapling also struggled to leave the storage ring. If it wasn't for Ning Yu suppressing it, the sapling and the law of space would have already flown away from the capital. 3 hours. Venerable, Great Desolation, and the others will arrive in 3 hours at most. Ning Yu's expression was extremely grave. 3 hours seemed like a lot of time to perfect the puppets, but in reality it was far from enough. Because Ning Yu didn't just need to perfect the puppet, he also needed to activate the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array. Activating the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array required a lot of time. 3 hours? Completely not enough. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu's expression became extremely solemn. Regardless of the consequences, he threw away all distracting thoughts and began to focus on perfecting the puppet. TSK. Reality proved that when you put your heart and soul into something, you could achieve twice the result with half the effort. An hour later, Ning Yu forced a drop of blood essence into the puppet. Instantly, the puppet opened its eyes and a peak manifestation realm aura erupted from its body. However, the puppet's aura at the peak of the manifestation realm disappeared in a flash. I can only maintain a peak manifestation realm aura for 5 minutes. I can't waste it. With a thought, Ning Yu completely suppressed the puppet's aura. He couldn't let the puppet release its aura unless it was a critical moment. TSK. Not long after Ning Yu successfully refined the puppet, the Sword of Evil and Danguzi also successfully refined the puppet. In comparison, the puppet refined by the Sword of Evil and Danguzi was slightly inferior. Aura. Its appearance was very similar to the puppet refined by Ning Yu, but its aura was very different. Go. The difference in aura did not matter. With a flick of Ning Yu's finger, 2 drops of blood flew out. The blood left a trail in midair and steadily entered the bodies of the 2 puppets. As the blood essence entered the bodies, the aura of the 2 puppets instantly became exactly the same as that of the puppets refined by Ning Yu. Leave the Emperor-grade origin crystals here. You guys guard the door. Looking at the 3 puppets, Ning Yu nodded his head in satisfaction and said, The Great Wilderness Supremacy, and the rest will probably be here in an hour. Don't fight them head-on. You must lure them here. Ha. Ning Yu, who do you think we should lure here? However, just as Ning Yu finished speaking, a voice was heard. Crack. After that, the space above the secret chamber suddenly split open, and then two figures appeared. The Great Wilderness Supremacy and the Saber Mountain Supremacy. The two figures were none other than the Great Wilderness Supremacy and the Saber Mountain Supremacy. Rumble, rumble. Neither of them threw out a punch, and the secret chamber was directly destroyed. Ning Yu and the rest were completely exposed to the Great Wilderness Supremacy and the Great Wilderness Supremacy. Crack, crack. Clenching his fists, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "I didn't expect you guys to arrive so quickly." "Hee hee, isn't it exactly what you wanted us to come?" With a smile, the Great Wilderness Supremacy descended. Venerable Great Desolation glanced at the three puppets before he continued. "Ning Yu, have you been busy refining these three puppets instead of doing anything?" Chapter 1202. Plot. Supremacy Great Desolation, Supremacy Saber Mountain. Ning Yu's expression turned ugly as he looked at the two figures that suddenly appeared. Supremacy Great Desolation and Saber Mountain's arrival was indeed troublesome. Ning Yu knew that he had to activate the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array if he wanted to fight against Supremacy Great Desolation and Saber Mountain. "Ning Yu, you actually have one last chance to live." Crossing his arms in front of his chest, the Venerable of Great Wilderness stared at Ning Yu with interest and said, "Give me Lu Swan, and I will spare your life." "Oh, if you want to let me live, can you make the decision?" Since Supremacy Great Desolation and Saber Mountain didn't attack immediately, Ning Yu secretly poured his aura into the puppet. It just didn't seem to change on the surface. "Ha ha ha!" Supremacy Great Desolation laughed maniacally. "Don't try to drive a wedge between us. You have no other choice today." As soon as the word choose left his mouth, the Great Wilderness Venerable charged towards Ning Yu in a flash. Swish! Dan Guzi stepped in front of Ning Yu. Bang! A crisp sound rang out. Dan Guzi was struck by Supremacy Great Desolation's fist and was sent flying several meters away. Poochie! Fresh blood spurted out, and Dan Guzi's aura became extremely weak. How is this possible? Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Dan Guzi exclaimed in shock. 3 days ago, Supremacy Great Desolation wasn't this strong. In just 3 days, Supremacy Great Desolation strength was already close to a rank 9 mid-human sovereign. This speed not only shocked Dan Guzi, but even Ning Yu found it inconceivable. Nothing is impossible. Since Ning Yu doesn't listen, then I'll start with you today. Supremacy Great Desolation shot out once more. Supremacy Great Desolation's battle strength was already infinitely close to a rank 9 mid-human sovereign. Poochie! The void was torn, and there was a sizzling sound. The Grand Desolation arrived in front of Pil Guzi in the blink of an eye. His right hand clenched into a fist, and he punched Pil Guzi's head. The Great Desolation Sovereign had used almost all his strength in this punch. It was all for the sake of killing Dan Guzi in one blow. At the same time, Venerable De Huang took out a flag from his pocket. Not good. It's the 1,000 Ghosts Devouring Soul flag. Seeing the flag in Venerable De Huang's hand, Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. Ning Yu had a deep understanding of the myriad ghosts devouring soul flag. The 10,000 Ghosts Devouring Soul flag was an extremely vicious flag. Every time a martial artist was killed, their soul would be imprisoned within the flag. When the flag had 10,000 souls and the soul of a heaven-defying martial artist, it would undergo a metamorphosis. Clearly, the Great Desolation was planning on using Dan Guzi's soul as the last soul of the myriad ghost soul devouring flag. After all, Dan Guzi was a 9th rank mortal sovereign, and his spiritual strength had reached the peak of the 8th rank. Go! At the critical moment, Ning Yu lifted his right foot and kicked a puppet beside him. Rumble! The puppet was extremely fast. In an instant, it had reached Venerable De Huang's side and exploded. Child's play. The Venerable of Great Wilderness did not take the self-destruction of the puppet at the peak of the manifestation realm to heart. Instead, he casually waved his right hand, and a gush of vitality flew out of his sleeve, forming a protective shield of vitality in front of him. Crack! However, the vitality shield that was thrown out by the Venerable of Great Desolation could not withstand the puppet's self-explosion. Furthermore, the shock waves from the puppet's self-destruction blasted towards Venerable De Huang. Damn it, I'll spare your life for now. Cursing inwardly, Venerable De Huang immediately retreated, narrowly avoiding the shock waves from the puppet's self-destruction. Whoosh! Seeing Venerable De Huang retreat, Dan Guzi let out a long sigh of relief. Ningyu, I've always been curious. Where did you hide Venerable Lingshu? Seeing that Venerable De Huang was about to attack again, Venerable Saber Mountain spoke up. Hand over Venerable Lingshu, and I can leave your corpse intact. You want to leave my corpse intact? Ning Yu's expression did not change. Venerable Lingshu is hiding in the void. If you dare attack, he will immediately appear. Don't think I don't know you're spouting nonsense, said Venerable Saber Mountain coldly. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you'll know once you try. Ning Yu spoke indifferently, and he seemed to be extremely composed and carefree. Damn it, if I had the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag, I would have attacked long ago. Venerable Saber Mountain's expression was ugly. Venerable De Huang had the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag. Although Venerable De Huang's strength was not on par with Venerable Saber Mountain's, Venerable Saber Mountain could no longer suppress him. A single mistake could cause everlasting sorrow. If he had known this would happen, Venerable Saber Mountain would have definitely snatched the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag. Now that he did not have the flag, Venerable Saber Mountain was a little afraid of Venerable Lingshu. After all, 3 days had passed. No one knew if Venerable Lingshu had recovered. The enemy was in the dark while he was in the light. It was not suitable for him to make the first move. Venerable Great Desolation, kill everyone except for Ningyu. Venerable Saber Mountain said calmly as he thought of a countermeasure. Old Fox, how could Venerable Great Desolation not know what Venerable Saber Mountain was thinking? However, he had the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag and was not afraid of the hidden Venerable Lingshu. As long as Venerable Lingshu attacked, his myriad ghost-devouring soul flag would sound a warning. Not only was the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag strong in attack, it also had an extremely special function. Warning! Venerable Saber Mountain, it's not that I can attack, but when Venerable Lingshu comes, you have to get rid of him. Venerable Great Desolation said, Venerable Lingshu is a middle grade 9 human supreme. I'm only an early grade 9 human supreme. I'm definitely not his match. Of course. Leave Venerable Lingshu to me. Venerable Saber Mountain patted his chest and guaranteed. Nonsense. Venerable Lingshu better kill you, and I'll get the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag. On the surface, Venerable Saber Mountain made a promise. In reality, he was filled with disdain. He definitely had to get his hands on a treasure, like the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag. If he could get his hands on the myriad ghost-devouring soul flag and devour Venerable Lingshu, he could even go against a late grade 9 human supreme. Just because of this, he had fallen out with Venerable Lingshu long ago. Now, they were just using each other. Ningyu, I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to hand over Lu Wei or not? After getting Venerable Saber Mountain's guarantee, Venerable Great Desolation said, Hand over Lu Wei, and I'll leave your corpse intact. Otherwise die. You've already said this twice. When are you going to stop? Ningyu said indifferently, Me, Dan Guzi, the Sword of Evil. The three of us, me too. Before Ning, you could finish his sentence. The Dark Emperor rushed in from outside the room. Not 3, 4. The Dark Emperor said, Ha ha ha. For pieces of trash want to go against me? Venerable Great Desolation was stunned when he saw the Dark Emperor. Then he laughed maniacally. Today, I'll let you know that there's always someone better out there. Chapter 1203. Activate. From Supremacy Great Desolation's point of view, the Sword of Evil was the weakest among Ning Yu's group of 4. Although Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor were both peak third-grade human sovereigns, they were the 5 ultimate geniuses. A pinnacle third-grade human sovereign was much more powerful than an ordinary pinnacle 8th-grade human sovereign. Humans picked on the weak and bullied the weak. This was Supremacy Great Desolation's code of conduct. Go. How could Ning Yu let the Sword of Evil face Supremacy Great Desolation alone? Supremacy Great Desolation was a 9th-grade human sovereign and had the 10,000 ghost devouring flag. Under such circumstances, the Sword of Evil probably wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Swish! Swish! Hearing Ning Yu's words, the Dark Emperor and Dan Guzi's figures flashed, each sending a powerful attack towards Supremacy Great Desolation. As for Ning Yu, he threw the remaining 2 puppets into the altar. Fight! Just as the puppets were thrown into the altar, Ning Yu gritted his teeth, stomped on the ground, and entered the altar. Bang! Bang! Ning Yu entered the altar, but Dan Guzi and the Dark Emperor didn't have it easy. The 2 of them didn't gain any advantage against Dan Guzi and were quickly repelled. Pucci! Even the Dark Emperor and Dan Guzi were repelled. One could imagine how tragic the outcome of the Sword of Evil would be. His body slammed into the wall. The Sword of Evil spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura became very weak. Supremacy Saber Mountain, why didn't you stop Ning Yu? Supremacy Great Desolation didn't continue his attack, but said coldly, "That's the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array. Once it's activated, the consequences will be unimaginable." Supremacy Great Desolation was from the Sacred Heaven sect, and he had some understanding of ancient arrays like the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array. Once the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array was activated, its might would be extremely formidable, not to mention the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flags. Even if he had 100,000 or 1,000,000 ghost-devouring soul flags, it would not be of much use. Haha, don't worry about it. Blade Mountain Venerable One grinned. A powerhouse needs to be the formation to activate the endless heaven and earth formation. Do you think Ning Yu is a powerhouse? With Ning Yu's peak grade 3 human sovereign cultivation, he'll probably be reduced to ashes the moment the endless heaven and earth array is activated. Rumble. As soon as Saber Mountain Venerable finished speaking, a rumbling sound was heard coming from the altar. Whoosh! Not long after the rumbling sound, a head ejected from the altar. Ning Yu! Blade Mountain Venerable smiled wickedly as he looked at the head that flew out. I told you that Ning Yu will die a graveless death as long as the endless heaven and earth formation is activated. That being said, why do I feel a little scared? Great Desolation Venerable asked doubtfully, "What are you scared of? You have the myriad spirit devouring flag. Even if Ning Yu comes out from the altar, you won't be afraid." Blade Mountain Venerable pouted his lips and said, "Whoosh!" At this moment, another head flew out from the altar. What? Blade Mountain Venerable and Great Desolation Venerable were shocked when they saw the face of the head. That was because the head was exactly the same as the one that flew out earlier. There were no changes. What's going on? Blade Mountain Venerable One was dumbfounded, extremely dumbfounded. Could it be that Ning Yu replaced himself with a puppet to activate the endless heaven and earth formation? At this moment, Blade Mountain Venerable seemed to be enlightened and instantly understood what was going on. He had indeed seen the puppets when he entered the secret chamber. However, he did not think much of them. After all, the 3 puppets were only at the peak of the manifestation realm. He was a middle grade 9 human sovereign, so he could kill puppets at the peak of the manifestation realm with a single breath. "You're smart." A calm voice resounded from the altar. Whoosh! Shortly after, a figure tore through the void and appeared above the altar. "I used 2 puppets to deceive everyone. Now that the endless heaven and earth formation has been activated, the 2 of you won't be able to escape. We won't be able to escape." Saber Mountain, Venerable One, and Great Wilderness, Venerable One, looked at each other and noticed disdain in each other's eyes. Ning Yu's current strength was still at the peak of the 3rd grade 9 human sovereign. His current strength could not pose any threat to them. "Ning Yu, stop playing tricks. You're no match for us. Come down here as soon as possible and kowtow to us a few times. Maybe we'll be merciful and spare your worthless life." Great Desolation Venerable and Blade Mountain Venerable said at the same time. "Is that so?" Ning Yu raised the corner of his lips and said, "Endless heaven and earth formation, rise." As Ning Yu uttered the word rise, the 4 surrounding pillars suddenly left the ground. Whoosh! 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 The 4 pillars surrounded Ning Yu and the altar. A steady stream of energy gushed out from the stone pillar and entered Ning Yu's body. Ning Yu's aura had also skyrocketed in a short period of time. Fortunately, I had Venerable Spiritual Su's blessing to raise my cultivation to the peak of the 3rd grade 9 human sovereign. My physique has also been strengthened. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to endure the energy of the endless heaven and earth formation. Ning Yu rejoiced as he threw the remaining Emperor-grade origin crystals into the altar. At the same time, to strengthen his aura, Ning Yu took out 10 Xingyang pills and threw them into the altar. What a waste! What a waste! Blade Mountain Venerable and Great Desolation Venerable felt sorry for Ning Yu's actions. 10 Xingyang pills had been wasted by Ning Yu, so how could they not be furious? After recovering from his anger, Great Desolation Venerable was the first to charge out. 1,000 Ghost Devouring Flag. In order to defeat Ning Yu in one move, Great Desolation Venerable even used the 1,000 Ghost Devouring Flag. Where did that piece of trash, Venerable Spiritual Su, go? Blade Mountain Venerable had wanted to make a move, but when he remembered that Venerable Spiritual Su was still in the dark, he immediately gave up. If Venerable Spiritual Su launched a sneak attack while he was attacking, he wouldn't be far from death. Ning Yu smiled faintly at the incoming flag. He made a grabbing motion with his right hand, and a ball of essence chi instantly formed, clashing head-on with the flag. Chi. The flag and the ball of energy clashed. As expected, the ball of Yuan Qi turned into nothingness, and the flag tore through the void, blasting toward Ning Yu. Ning Yu, originally, I was planning on having Dan Guzi be the final soul. Who would have thought that you would interfere midway? Since that's the case, I'll have you be the final soul to complete the myriad ghost soul devouring flag. Great Desolation Venerable raised his head proudly. Great Desolation Venerable was extremely confident in the 1,000 ghost devouring flag. Before devouring so many souls, Great Desolation Venerable had already used the 1,000 ghost devouring flag to kill a 9th grade 9 human sovereign. Chapter 1204. Chapter 1204. Chapter 1204 for Be Trapped Venerable, Great Wilderness was right. The myriad ghosts devouring soul flag did not disappoint him. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Ning Yu and blasted into Ning Yu's chest. Bang! The terrifying force that came from his chest caused Ning Yu to fall back and crash into one of the stone pillars. Kacha! Ning Yu's body slammed into the stone pillar, causing it to shatter. Xiao! The stone pillar shattered, and 3 extremely terrifying energies entered Ning Yu's body in the blink of an eye. Crackle! With so much energy entering his body, Ning Yu's body began to swell. Moreover, in the process of expanding, crackling sounds could be heard from Ning Yu's body. The sound grew faster and faster, and in the end, Ning Yu spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, Ning Yu's aura plummeted to freezing point. Ning Yu's sudden change stunned the great desolation sovereign for a moment before he burst into wild laughter. What should I say to you? If you don't have the ability to control the heaven and earth limitless array, then don't try to show off. If you obediently do as I say, then you'll still have a complete corpse. Now, it's very likely that you'll die without a burial. The great wilderness, reverend, looked at Ning Yu as though he was looking at a fool and said, I don't even need to do anything. You'll be torn apart by 5 horses and explode. You're too naive. These words came out of Ning Yu's mouth without any fluctuations. At this moment, Ning Yu was not affected by the drop in his aura. Instead, he said in disdain, Great desolation supremacy, open your eyes wide and watch how I subdue the 10,000 ghost-devouring flag. You want to subdue my 1,000 ghost-devouring soul flag? Ha ha ha! As if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. The great wilderness, venerable, laughed hysterically and said, I'll stand right here and watch. How did you subdue me? How is this possible? Venerable De Huang was dumbfounded. He stood there in a daze, his eyes fixed on Ning Yu, who was on top of the altar. Ning Yu repeatedly waved his hands, and 3 stone pillars cracked in an instant. Kacha! 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 After the stone pillars split open, 3 terrifying energy fluctuations entered Ning Yu's body. As the energy entered his body, Ning Yu's aura, which had already dropped to the freezing point, instantly became stronger. The speed at which Ning Yu's aura was increasing was clearly beyond the scope of ordinary people's understanding. In just a few seconds, Ning Yu's aura became so strong that even Saber Mountain Venerable was afraid of it. We must stop Ning Yu, because if this continues, the consequences will be unimaginable. As Ning Yu's aura grew stronger, Saber Mountain Venerable became more worried. As long as Ning Yu completely refined the energy released by the 3 stone pillars, even if he and Great Wilderness Venerable joined hands, they might not be able to subdue Ning Yu. Great Wilderness Venerable, I'll help you retrieve the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. You go kill Pilguzi and the rest. Saber Mountain Venerable's eyes turned, and he instantly charged towards the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. Heaven and earth infinite array rise. At this moment, Ning Yu suddenly waved his hands, and the surrounding wind and clouds suddenly changed. Several huge stone pillars appeared, trapping Great Wilderness Venerable and Saber Mountain Venerable inside. Of the 16 stone pillars, 8 trapped Saber Mountain Venerable, and 8 trapped Great Wilderness Venerable. Damn it! If I had known earlier, I would have killed Ning Yu first. Being trapped in the stone pillars, Saber Mountain Venerable and Great Wilderness Venerable were filled with regret. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Both Saber Mountain Venerable and Great Wilderness Venerable were experienced experts, so they quickly calmed down. Their top priority was not to complain, but to think of a way to break the stone pillars, and then think of a way to snatch the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. No matter what, the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag could not fall into Ning Yu's hands. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Saber Mountain Venerable, what you need to do now is to think of a way to break the stone pillars as soon as possible. I'll pay attention to the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag and guarantee that Ning Yu will not be able to snatch it away. It was unknown what Great Wilderness Venerable thought of, but he suddenly calmed down. Why are you so confident? Saber Mountain Venerable asked doubtfully. It's not that I'm confident, but look at what Ning Yu is doing. Great Wilderness Venerable shook his head and pointed at Ning Yu. Swoosh! Hearing that, Saber Mountain Venerable turned his head and looked at Ningyu. Saber Mountain Venerable 1 laughed maniacally when he took a look at it. Ha 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 ha! Saber Mountain Venerable almost choked on his laughter. Although the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag didn't belong to him, he knew how terrifying the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag was. At this moment, Ningyu placed his right hand on the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag and sucked out the soul energy within. Ningyu, you're courting death. The corner of Great Wilderness Venerable's lips rose as he eerily said, I've already erased the memories of the souls within the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. Right now, they only have one memory, devouring. No matter who it is, it's devouring, devouring, and devouring again. You're really daring to have designs on these souls. The ignorant are truly fearless. Great Wilderness Venerable was relieved. Even he didn't dare to devour the souls within the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. But a mere pinnacle third-grade sovereign like Ning, you actually dared to do such a reckless thing. In Great Wilderness Venerable's view, Ningyu's death was only a matter of time. Ningyu, you mustn't do that. Dan Guzi also knew how terrifying the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag was. Seeing that Ningyu was devouring the soul energy within the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag, he hurriedly shouted, The 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag is extremely terrifying. You mustn't do anything stupid. I know what I'm doing. Ningyu waved his hand and said indifferently, Only Ningyu knew the truth. No one else knew. Ningyu wasn't devouring the souls within the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag, but purifying them. In other words, Ningyu was erasing the memories of the souls within the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. The 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag was an extremely vicious artifact, so Ningyu naturally wouldn't use it. However, Ningyu wasn't a saint. In any case, the souls within the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag had long since lost their chance of survival. Therefore, Ningyu first purified their souls before using a secret technique to refine the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag into the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. Although the 10,000 ghost sacred flag and 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag only differed by a few words, their power and effects were completely different. If the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag wanted to increase its power, it could only continuously devour souls. If the 10,000 ghost sacred flag wanted to increase its power, it could not only devour souls, but also devour energy. As long as there was enough energy, the 10,000 ghost sacred flag's power would be extremely terrifying. You know what you're doing. Ha ha ha, I think you've lost your mind. Great Wilderness Venerable laughed maniacally. I want to see where you get your confidence from. You can. Idiot, you're always laughing. I'll definitely make you laugh to your heart's content later. Ningyu interrupted Great Wilderness Venerable's laughter. Open your eyes and watch how I subdue the 10,000 ghost soul devouring flag. After activating the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array, Ningyu is no longer as afraid of Great Wilderness Venerable and Saber Mountain Venerable. Chapter 1205. You're finished, ha ha ha. Supremacy, Great Desolation, didn't seem to hear Ningyu's words. I want to see just how you're going to collect my myriad ghost soul devouring flag. No one knew the terror of the myriad ghost soul devouring flag better than Supremacy, Great Desolation. Ning, you wanted to collect the myriad ghost soul devouring flag? What a joke. Ningyu, you can't mess around. At this time, Dan Guzi once more said, Before taking the myriad ghost soul devouring flag, I suggest we kill Venerable Great Desolation and Venerable Saber Mountain first. In Pil Guzi's opinion, since the Heaven and Earth Infinite Array had already been activated, why not kill Supremacy, Great Desolation, and Saber Mountain Venerable first? Only by killing Supremacy, Great Desolation, and Saber Mountain Venerable would he be able to collect the myriad ghost soul-devouring flag with peace of mind. With supremacy, great desolation, and saber mountain venerable present, he felt very uneasy. I know what I'm doing. Ningyu said no more and focused on purifying the souls within the myriad ghost soul-devouring flag. In truth, Ningyu also wanted to kill supremacy, great desolation, and saber mountain venerable first. However, as long as the myriad ghost soul-devouring flag was not collected, Ningyu wouldn't be able to kill supremacy, great desolation, and saber mountain venerable. Although Ningyu wasn't afraid of them within the heaven and earth infinite array, it would be extremely difficult to kill them. After all, supremacy, great desolation, and saber mountain venerable were both rank 9 mortal sovereigns. Using the heaven and earth infinite array, Ningyu could only face them head-on. He couldn't kill them. In fact, if the heaven and earth infinite array ran out of energy, Ningyu might even be killed by supremacy, great desolation, and saber mountain venerable. The most important thing right now was to collect the myriad ghost soul devouring flag and purify the souls within, turning it into the myriad ghost holy flag. Only then would there be a chance of survival. Saber mountain venerable, quickly think of a way to break open the stone pillars. I'll keep an eye on Ningyu for you. Supremacy, great desolation, crossed his arms in front of his chest confidently. If there's any problem, contact me immediately. Remember, don't be impulsive. After saying that, Saber Mountain Venerable released his perception and began to study the stone pillar carefully. No, it's too slow. After glancing at Saber Mountain Venerable, Ningyu gave up on purifying the souls inside the flag. According to his purification speed, he would not be able to purify all the souls inside by the time Saber Mountain Venerable broke the stone pillar. What? Why did you stop? Continue. Seeing that Ningyu had stopped, the Venerable of Great Desolation curled his lips and said in disdain, "If you know what's good for you, hurry up and let us out of the stone pillar. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red." Idiot. Ning, you could not be bothered with Venerable De Huang. Instead, he fell into deep thought. There was a limit to a person's power. There was no way to purify the soul force in the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag in a short period of time. If there was someone else to help. Thinking of this, Ningyu's mind moved and he began to communicate with the sapling and the law of space. The sapling and the law of space were special existences, and they might be able to purify souls very quickly. Buzz. Hearing Ningyu's words, the law of space and the sapling became very excited, and they rushed out of the spatial ring. Block. Ningyu did not want Dan Guzi and the Venerable of Great Desolation to know about the law of space and the sapling. Thus, with a thought, a layer of white mist appeared around him. What's going on? The white mist was very powerful, and it completely blocked Dan Guzi and the Venerable of Great Desolation senses. The Grand Desolation and Pil Guzi were both shocked. They had no idea what was going on. Ningyu did not take Venerable Great Desolation and the others' shock to heart. Ningyu was completely stunned by what was happening in front of him. The sapling and the law of space were like hungry wolves. They practically purified 1,000 souls in an instant. Based on this speed, even if the purification speed was a bit slower, they could still purify all the souls in a few dozen minutes. No wonder the sapling and the law of space tried their best to break free from the spatial ring and fly away from the capital when I asked them to locate Saber Mountain and the Venerable of Great Desolation. Ningyu finally understood. The sapling and the law of space were interested in the souls inside the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag. However, Ningyu did not think too much about it. With the help of the sapling and the law of space, he would soon be able to transform the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag into the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. When that time came, it would be the death of Saber Mountain and the Crown Prince. Drip, drip. Time was always slipping away unknowingly. Soon, 15 minutes had passed. Within 15 minutes, Saber Mountain Venerable One had almost destroyed all the stone pillars around it. He believed that he would be able to completely destroy the stone pillars in a minute or two. Venerable of Great Desolation, let's attack together. Saber Mountain's eyes turned cold. He poured all the vital energy in his sea of consciousness into his palm and punched the nearest stone pillar. All right. Venerable of Great Desolation knew that the time was right. He also poured his vital energy into his fist and punched the nearest stone pillar. Crack! Crack! 2 crisp sounds were heard consecutively. The 2 stone pillars closest to Venerable of Great Desolation and Saber Mountain were completely smashed. Crack! Crack! Venerable of Great Desolation and the rest punched several more times and smashed the remaining stone pillars. Ha ha ha! After all the stone pillars were smashed, Venerable of Great Desolation's signature maniacal laughter reverberated in the infinite heaven and earth array. Ningyu, stop hiding. Come out and let me see if you've subdued my 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag. Venerable of Great Desolation was in a great mood. Initially, he was a little worried when he was trapped by the stone pillars. Who would have thought that Ningyu would foolishly try to subdue the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag? Now that the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag was not subdued, they were able to successfully escape. Whoosh! At this moment, Ningyu flicked his wrist, and the white mist instantly disappeared. Oh! You're quite capable to be able to subdue my 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag. Venerable of Great Desolation raised his brows when he saw the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag in Ningyu's hand. Toss it over. I promise you that as long as you toss the 10,000 ghost-devouring soul flag over, I'll let you die peacefully. Why are you wasting your breath on him? In comparison, Saber Mountain Venerable wasn't that easy to talk to. He took a step forward and unleashed his aura, which pressed towards Ningyu in a frenzy. Ningyu, I, Saber Mountain Venerable, will make my words clear today. No one in this world can save you. Saber Mountain Venerable was domineering to the extreme. In fact, Saber Mountain Venerable was also very sullen. He was a 9th grade middle human supreme, yet he was fooled by Ningyu. It would be fine if Ningyu was a 9th grade middle human supreme, but Ningyu was only a 3rd grade pinnacle human supreme. If news of him being toyed with by a 3rd grade pinnacle human supreme reached the Alchemy Union headquarters, where would he put his anger? Therefore, in Saber Mountain Venerable's heart, not only did Ningyu have to die today, but everyone present had to die as well. Chapter 1206. Kill 1. Saber Mountain Venerable, don't be in such a rush. In any case, we have plenty of time. Let's play with them first, and then kill them when we're done. Venerable, Great Desolation, seemed to have found his confidence. He first spoke to Saber Mountain Venerable, then turned to Ningyu. Ningyu, I advise you to hurry up and hand over the myriad ghost-devouring flag. Once I take action, you won't be able to live. Here, Ningyu seemed to be moved by Venerable, Great Desolation's words. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed the myriad ghost-devouring flag to Venerable, Great Desolation. It's over, it's all over. Ningyu's actions caused the Sword of Evil and Dan Guzi to have the same thought. Although they were within the endless heaven and earth formation, they had basically lost any chance of killing Venerable, Great Desolation, and the others. If this dragged on and they ran out of sovereign grade origin crystals, they would become lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Just what is going on? This time, even the Dark Emperor was a bit confused. Just what was going on with Ningyu? Why had he given up on the chance to trap Venerable, Great Desolation, and the others, and instead chose to subdue the myriad ghost-devouring flag? But now, not only had he failed to subdue the myriad ghost-devouring flag, He had even put himself in extreme danger. Saber Mountain Venerable, leave Ningyu to me. In any case, your target is Danguzi. Smiling at Saber Mountain Venerable, great desolation, stomped on the ground, and his body shot forward. Venerable De Huang's target was the 1,000-ghost devouring flag. Everyone knew that as long as Venerable De Huang obtained the 1,000-ghost devouring soul flag, it would be Ning Yu's death. I'll let you show off for a while. Saber Mountain Venerable's eyes flashed viciously, and he tore through the void, charging at Danguzi. Bang! Saber Mountain Venerable's attack was vicious, and he sent Danguzi flying with a single blow, sending him crashing into the barrier of the endless heaven and earth formation. Bang! Bang! Following that, Saber Mountain Venerable punched Evil Sword Venerable 2 more times. One of his punches landed on Evil Sword Venerable's chest, while the other hit the Dark Emperor's back. Even a grade 9 human sovereign like Danguzi couldn't block Blade Mountain Venerable's attack, let alone the Sword of Evil and the Dark Emperor. Despite that, the Sword of Evil and the Dark Emperor were not killed because Saber Mountain Venerable chose to hold back. Saber Mountain Venerable could tell that the Dark Emperor was a purple-gold sky-devouring hound. He wanted to use the Dark Emperor to lure out as many purple-gold sky-devouring hounds as possible. In the eyes of a peak 8th grade alchemist, the heaven-swallowing hound was an excellent ingredient for refining elixirs. At this moment, a blood-curdling scream like that of a pig being slaughtered came from the side. Whoosh! Upon hearing that, Blade Mountain Venerable immediately turned around. I can't believe it. Saber Mountain Venerable could not help but curse when he saw what was happening. Terrifying. It was too terrifying. At this moment, Venerable Great Desolation's body was expanding and becoming bigger and bigger. In a short period of time, the Great Wilderness Venerable had expanded several times. Rumble. When the Great Wilderness Venerable's body expanded to the limit, he naturally self-destructed. Come here. Ning Yu reacted swiftly and immediately controlled the Heavenly Earth Array to pull the Dark Emperor and arrest over. Block! At the same time, Ning Yu activated the Myriad Ghosts Devouring Soul Flag. No, it should be called the Myriad Ghosts Sacred Flag. Ning Yu activated the Myriad Ghosts Sacred Flag to form the first layer of defense around him. After the first layer of defense was formed, Ning Yu was still not assured. Thus, he threw a few shenyang pellets into the altar and formed the second layer of defense with the help of the Heavenly Earth Array. Whoosh! Venerable Great Desolation was a 9th grade human sovereign, so the aftermath of his self-destruction was extremely terrifying. Countless aftershocks spread out from the location of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction. Damn it! Damn it! The sudden change made Saber Mountain Venerable have the urge to curse. He had hundreds of questions in his heart. What happened? How did Venerable Great Desolation die? Why did Venerable Great Desolation self-destruct? All sorts of questions rose in Saber Mountain Venerable's mind, but he couldn't find an explanation. Helplessly, Saber Mountain Venerable could only suppress the questions in his mind and summoned all the energy and soul energy in his body to form 2 layers of defense around him. The first layer of defense was formed with energy. The second layer of defense was formed with soul energy. Crack! Evidently, the energy layer did not last long before it was destroyed by the aftershocks of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction. Saber Mountain Venerable was extremely worried. If the second layer of protection was broken through, he would be in grave danger. With such a powerful self-destruction, there's no way Ningyu and the rest can survive. It's a pity for my shenyang pellets and Myriad Ghosts Devouring Soul Flag. At this moment, Saber Mountain Venerable was still thinking about the shenyang pellets and Myriad Ghosts Devouring Soul Flag. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The aftershocks of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction came wave after wave. Fortunately, Venerable Great Desolation had self-destructed within the infinite heaven and earth formation. Otherwise, the entire Great Xia Kingdom's capital might have been affected. After all, the self-destruction of a Grade 9 human supreme was terrifying to the point that it could instantly destroy the entire Great Xia Kingdom's capital. Damn it, it's not enough. At the same time, Ningyu's expression was extremely ugly. The first line of defense constructed by the 10,000 spirits sacred flag was quickly destroyed by the aftershocks of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction. The first line of defense had been destroyed. The only thing they could do now was to rely on the second line of defense, which was the energy gushing out from the infinite heaven and earth formations' sacrificial altar. Go in! Helpless, Ningyu could only take out a few more Xingyang pellets and throw them into the sacrificial altar. With the replenishment of the Shenyang pellets, the energy gushing out from the sacrificial altar became more stable and would not be destroyed in an instant. Drip! Time flew by. Unknowingly, the aftershocks of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction were like a bottomless pit that was endless. Half an hour had passed since Venerable Great Wilderness self-detonated. The aftermath of Venerable Great Wilderness self-detonation had yet to dissipate completely. In this half an hour, Ningyu had used up dozens of Shenyang pellets and all the Emperor Great Essence crystals he had on him. Now, Ningyu had less than 20 Shenyang pellets on him. 18 of them. Ningyu only had 18 Shenyang pellets on him. Furthermore, Ningyu could not use these 18 Xingyang pellets to defend against the aftershocks of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction. He wanted to use the 18 Xingyang pellets and the infinite heaven and earth formation to increase his combat power in a short period of time to fight against Saber Mountain Venerable. Because Ningyu was in charge of the infinite heaven and earth formation, he could tell that Saber Mountain Venerable was fine. It was just that his Yuan Qi was slightly depleted. Rumble. Another few minutes passed. The aftershocks of Venerable Great Desolation's self-destruction finally dissipated completely. Phew! As the aftershocks dissipated, Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable heaved a sigh of relief in unison. The worries in their hearts had lessened significantly. Ningyu was thankful that he had 18 Xingyang pellets left. Saber Mountain Venerable was thankful that he had 90% of his combat power left. To the both of them, the self-destruction of Venerable Great Desolation was acceptable. Chapter 1207. Red Striped Sword Ningyu, I'm curious. Why did Reverend Great Desolation suddenly explode? Is it related to your 10,000 ghost-devouring flag? When everything was settled, Venerable Mountain's eyes shone with a terrifying light. He stared at the 1,000 ghost-devouring flag in Ningyu's hand and asked in confusion. Wrong. Ningyu shook his head and said, This isn't the myriad ghost-devouring flag. It's the myriad ghost sacred flag. 1,000 ghost sacred flag? Saber Mountain Venerable was dumbfounded. He knew about the 10,000 ghosts devouring soul flag. It was an extremely vicious magic treasure. But what the hell was the 10,000 ghosts holy flag? He had roamed the continent for so many years, but he had never heard of the existence of the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. Could it be that Ningyu was already at the end of his tether and was stalling for time? With that thought, Saber Mountain Venerable added, I don't care if it's the 10,000 soul-devouring flag or the 10,000 spirit sacred flag. Firstly, why would the Great Wilderness Venerable self-destruct? Secondly, throw the flag in your hand over. Ningyu, if I'm not wrong, you're already at the end of your rope. I'm already being extremely benevolent by not killing you right away. If that's the case, do I have to be grateful to you? Ningyu shrugged and said, Since you've asked me so sincerely, I'll reluctantly tell you that the great desolation Venerable had self-destructed because of the 10,000 spirits' sacred flag. Ningyu then waved the 10,000 holy flag in his hand and continued, "The great wilderness Venerable wants to use the 10,000 holy flag against me. But little did he know that I've already subdued the 10,000 Holy Spirit devouring flag and purified the souls inside. The current 10,000 ghosts sacred flag is much more powerful than before." "Impossible." Saber Mountain Venerable widened his eyes and exclaimed, "The 10,000 soul-devouring ghosts flag contains 10,000 martial artist souls. Even if you started purifying them 3 days ago, it's impossible for you to purify them completely. Believe it or not, what does it have to do with me?" Ningyu twitched his mouth and said to the Dark Emperor and the others, "Leave the endless heaven and earth formation first. I'd like to communicate with Saber Mountain Venerable." "Leave," Saber Mountain Venerable said proudly. "Without my permission, no one is allowed to leave the endless heaven and earth array. If I want them to leave, what can you do about it?" Ningyu's face was expressionless as he waved his hands, causing the space around him to split open. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The Dark Emperor, the Sword of Evil, and Dan Guzzi knew that they wouldn't be able to help Ningyu if they stayed, so they all disappeared into spatial tears. "This is infuriating." Saber Mountain Venerable gritted his teeth when he saw the Dark Emperor and the others leaving. Ningyu was clearly not giving him face. Initially, he had planned to have a good talk with Ningyu and only make his move after he had tricked the 10,000 ghosts' sacred flag over. From the looks of it now, it was completely unnecessary. Stubborn people must die. Soul attack. With a thought, Saber Mountain Venerable directly launched a soul attack at Ningyu. In terms of soul attack, Saber Mountain Venerable was very experienced. After all, his soul power was at the pinnacle of grade 8, while Ningyu's soul power was only at the intermediate grade 7. No. When did Ningyu's soul power advance to the pinnacle of grade 7? Saber Mountain Venerable's expression changed. He was very shocked. It's not good to be distracted now. Ningyu waved his hands and instantly sent out several palm prints. Universe palm. Although Ningyu hadn't cultivated the universe palm to the extreme, it was still more than enough to deal with Saber Mountain Venerable, who was distracted. TSK, TSK. The palm prints and Saber Mountain Venerable's soul attack collided and quickly disappeared. Whoosh! Following that, Ningyu waved his palms again and sent out several palm prints towards Saber Mountain Venerable. Oh no! Saber Mountain Venerable was indeed a middle grade 9 supreme as he reacted very quickly. The palm prints that Ningyu sent out seemed powerful on the surface, but to Saber Mountain Venerable, they were very ordinary. The reason why he was attacked by Ningyu earlier was because of his carelessness. Now that he was focused, Ningyu wouldn't stand a chance against him anymore. "All of you, get in!" Seeing that Saber Mountain Venerable and his palm prints came into contact, Ningyu hurriedly threw the remaining 18 Shenyang pills into the altar. At the same time, he began to control the infinite heaven and earth formation. Boom! As soon as the 18 Shenyang pills entered the altar, it exploded. Along with the explosion, a terrifying energy shot out from the altar and entered Ningyu's body. To begin with, Ningyu's aura wasn't too weak. Now that so much energy had entered his body, Ningyu's aura started to rise crazily. In a short period of time, Ningyu's aura had been strengthened to the limit. The 18 Shenyang pills and the energy contained in the infinite heaven and earth formation allowed Ningyu to strengthen his aura to a level that even Saber Mountain Venerable was afraid of. Damn it! With a flick of his sleeves, several cold flashes flew out and shattered the palm prints that Ningyu had sent out. After shattering the palm prints, Saber Mountain Venerable felt the terrifying aura that Ningyu was emitting, and his face turned extremely ugly. To be honest, Saber Mountain Venerable had not expected this situation at the start. Now that venerable great wilderness was forced to self-destruct. He wasn't very optimistic. Within the infinite heaven and earth formation, he wasn't 100% confident that he could kill Ningyu. Most importantly, he didn't know when Supremacy Spiritual Su would fully recover. Once Supremacy Spiritual Su recovered, Saber Mountain Venerable would be doomed eternally. I must kill Ningyu as soon as possible and think of a way to control the infinite heaven and earth formation. At that moment, Saber Mountain Venerable only had one thought in his mind: kill Ningyu and control the formation. That was the only way he could leave the great Xia kingdom successfully and be safe. Apart from Ningyu, Supremacy Spiritual Su wasn't someone to be trifled with either. Saber Mountain Venerable, I'll give you a chance now. At that moment, Ningyu's lips curled into an arc. Kneel down and count out to me 10 times, and I'll consider sparing your life. You want to kill me? Saber Mountain Venerable pointed at his nose and said coldly, even if your aura has been strengthened to this extent, you're still not my match. With that, Saber Mountain Venerable charged at Ningyu like a madman. Go. Looking at the approaching Saber Mountain Venerable, Ningyu flicked his finger. In an instant, the 10,000 spirits' sacred flag flew out and clashed with Saber Mountain Venerable. Rumble. Souls kept flying out of the 10,000 spirits' sacred flag, pressuring Saber Mountain Venerable. Although the souls in the 10,000 spirits' sacred flag were very weak and were not Saber Mountain Venerable's match in a one-on-one fight, there were many souls in the flag, and Saber Mountain Venerable could win with numbers. When hundreds or thousands of souls attacked at the same time, the power was still great. Even a middle grade 9 supreme like Saber Mountain Venerable found it troublesome. Ningyu, you forced me to do this. Saber Mountain Venerable knew that he couldn't repel so many souls within a short period of time. So he gritted his teeth and took out a flying sword. Red pattern sword. Chapter 1208. Rise. Royal Superior Grade Flying Sword. Ning Yu's expression changed when he saw the flying sword that Saber Mountain Venerable took out. He immediately wanted to retrieve the 10,000 ghosts' sacred flag. He had yet to completely refine the 10,000 ghosts' sacred flag, so he could not unleash its peak power. In other words, the 10,000 ghosts' sacred flag could only unleash 50% of its peak power. To unleash 100% of its power, Ningyu had to be given enough time to completely refine the 10,000 ghosts' sacred flag. You're only retrieving the 10,000 ghosts' devouring flag now. Don't you think it's a little too late? Saber Mountain Venerable smirked and waved the scarlet rune sword in his hand. Whoosh! The Scarlet Rune Sword was a Royal Superior Grade flying sword. In addition to the fact that Saber Mountain Venerable was a middle grade, 9th grade supreme, he could unleash 100% of the Scarlet Rune Sword's power. 100% of the Scarlet Rune Sword's power was extremely terrifying. Saber Mountain Venerable had used the Scarlet Rune Sword to kill a middle grade, 9th grade supreme in the past. So it was more than enough to deal with Ningyu now. Several sword rays shot out and charged at Ningyu. Swish, swish, swish. Facing so many sword lights, Ningyu unleashed his perception and combined it with the spatial law's warning, trying his best to dodge. Although Saber Mountain Venerable attacked with many sword rays, it was difficult for him to hit Ningyu. Ningyu dodged the attacks of more than 10 sword rays very quickly. Furthermore, Ningyu did not seem to be struggling at all. In fact, he seemed to be doing it with ease. Saber Mountain Venerable, if this is all you're capable of, then I'm sorry to tell you that you'll definitely die today. Ningyu took out a Shengyang pill and popped it into his mouth after dodging Saber Mountain Venerable's sword rays. The show has only just begun. Saber Mountain Venerable was a veteran powerhouse. So how could he be frightened by Ningyu? He waved the scarlet runed sword in his hand, and dozens of sword rays flew out in an instant, trapping Ningyu in the middle. I really want to see what kind of show there is. Ningyu's face was expressionless as he said, I have to remind you that sage spirit Su has long recovered. The reason why he didn't make a move was because he didn't think much of you. Venerable Master Lingshu is a coward. If he dares to come out, I'll make sure he dies without a burial place. Venerable Saber Mountain said proudly, You even want to kill revered spiritual Su. Ning, you looked at Venerable Saber Mountain as if he was looking at a fool and said in disdain, Venerable spiritual Su is the same as you. A middle phase, 9th grade sovereign. What makes you think that you can kill him? Why? Because of my scarlet rune sword. Saber Mountain Venerable waved the red rune sword in his hand and said, The red rune sword is a superior royal rank flying sword. I don't believe that trash Venerable Masterling Su has a superior royal rank flying sword. Saber Mountain Venerable was so sure because he knew better than anyone else how fearsome a high monarch flying sword was. He was a middle phase, 9th grade sovereign, and coupled with a superior royal rank flying sword, he was practically invincible among those of the same rank. Furthermore, Saber Mountain Venerable did not believe that Venerable Masterling Su could recover so quickly. You're worried. At this moment, Ningyu's words rang in Saber Mountain Venerable's ears. Nonsense, why would I be worried? Saber Mountain Venerable rebuked, with uneasiness flashing across his eyes. Ha! Although the scarlet rune sword in your hand is a superior royal rank flying sword, it's incomplete and has many flaws. With a smile, Ningyu continued, At its peak, the scarlet rune sword is indeed a superior royal rank flying sword, and it's very powerful. However, the scarlet rune sword in your hand has already been damaged, and you'll need to consume your blood essence to unleash its fighting strength. Otherwise, with your cultivation as a middle phase, 9th grade sovereign and your superior royal rank scarlet rune sword, you can kill me effortlessly. Why are you dawdling here? Dawdling here means that you're feeling guilty, which means that you're not confident in killing me or dealing with venerable spiritual Su. You're afraid. Rumble. Every word that Ningyu said sounded like thunderbolts from the 9 heavens in Saber Mountain, Venerable One's mind, causing him to be extremely shocked. Nonsense. You're spouting nonsense. Saber Mountain Venerable said fiercely, Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. As soon as the word you fell, Saber Mountain Venerable tore through the void with his scarlet rune sword and appeared before Ningyu in an instant, slashing down with his sword. Block. Although Ningyu looked down on Saber Mountain Venerable verbally, his actions showed that he valued Saber Mountain Venerable. With a thought, Ningyu took out the red demon sword and clashed head-on with Saber Mountain Venerable's scarlet rune sword. Ding! As the 2 flying swords clashed, a crisp sound echoed in the infinite heaven and earth array. After a single move, both Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable retreated simultaneously. Judging from the distance they retreated, Ningyu and Saber Mountain Venerable were equally matched, and neither of them gained the upper hand. Your flying sword is also a superior monarch. Saber Mountain Venerable's face was extremely gloomy. He did not expect Ningyu to have a superior monarch flying sword too, and it was also a superior monarch. A superior monarch flying sword was extremely rare, and Saber Mountain Venerable had put in a lot of effort to obtain the scarlet rune sword back then, to the extent that he almost lost his life. Now that Ningyu, who was a peak grade 3 sovereign, also had a superior monarch flying sword, he felt unbalanced. Who said that you're the only one allowed to have a superior monarch flying sword, and I can't? Ningyu shrugged and said, You said that I'm at the end of my rope just now, but it seems like I'm not at the end of my rope. You're at the end of your rope. Through this exchange of blows, Ningyu had already determined Saber Mountain Venerable's true combat power. The great wilderness venerable's self-destruction had a huge impact on Saber Mountain Venerable. Otherwise, even if the scarlet rune sword was flawed, Saber Mountain Venerable would not have been evenly matched with him. At the very least, he would have had the upper hand. Ha ha ha. Saber Mountain Venerable raised his head and laughed maniacally. He then said coldly, "Ningyu, I didn't expect you to notice me even though I hid so well. However, you've overlooked something." "What is it?" Ningyu was puzzled. "You've forgotten where I'm from." Following that, Saber Mountain Venerable closed his eyes and slowly rose. "Where I'm from? Of course, I'm from the Alchemy Guild." "Oh no." Ningyu was slightly stunned. However, Ningyu reacted quickly. Saber Mountain Venerable was from the Alchemy Guild, so he definitely had a heaven-defying elixir that could increase his strength. Crack! Ningyu's worries were not unreasonable. All of a sudden, Saber Mountain Venerable opened his eyes, and a red elixir flew out from his sleeve. Saber Mountain Venerable opened his mouth and swallowed the elixir. Boom! A muffled sound was heard. Something seemed to have opened up in Saber Mountain Venerable's body, and his aura instantly increased from a middle grade 9 sovereign to a peak middle grade 9 sovereign. Furthermore, Saber Mountain Venerable's aura continued to increase. Boom! 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 Numerous sounds were heard. Chapter 1209. Unable to withstand a single blow, Ning Yu's expression turned ugly when he sensed Saber Mountain Venerable's aura. Saber Mountain Venerable was injured just now. Moreover, the red pattern sword was damaged, causing Saber Mountain Venerable to be no match for Ningyu. Hence, Ningyu had a high chance of killing him. But now, Saber Mountain Venerable had consumed a pill to raise his aura to a late-stage, 9th grade human supreme. Ningyu was not confident that he could defeat Saber Mountain Venerable in this state. "Ningyu, you're the reason why things have come to this. Today, I'll enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill you with my red patterned sword." Following that, Saber Mountain Venerable tore the void apart and charged at Ningyu. Saber Mountain Venerable knew very well the effect of the pill he consumed was limited, and he could only last half an hour at the late stage 9th grade human supreme. Half an hour later, his aura would plummet, and he might even fall to a 9th grade human supreme. In other words, Saber Mountain Venerable had to kill Ningyu within half an hour, then look for Venerable Spiritual Su and kill him as well. That was the only way he could successfully escape. Otherwise, even if he killed Ningyu, he would still die if Venerable Spiritual Su came over when his aura was at its lowest. Ding ding ding. Facing such a powerful Saber Mountain Venerable, Ningyu did not choose to resign himself to death. Instead, he took out the red demon sword and fought with Saber Mountain Venerable. The red demon sword and the red patterned sword clashed repeatedly, producing crisp sounds. Fortunately, the red demon sword's rank is very high. The more he fought, the more Ningyu felt fortunate. As the saying went, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. At its peak, the red patterned sword was an upper royal grade flying sword of extremely high quality. Although it was damaged, it could still unleash the power of a middle royal grade flying sword. Saber Mountain Venerable's combat power was almost at its peak with the red patterned sword's aura as a late-stage 9th grade human supreme. In other words, if the red demon sword's quality was not higher than the red patterned sword's, Ningyu would have died a long time ago. How could he have lasted until now? I can't go on like this. I won't be able to last half an hour. Saber Mountain Venerable was aware of his body's condition, but it was not like Ningyu was clueless. Almost all elixirs that could increase one's strength in a short period of time had side effects. This was especially so for pills like Saber Mountain Venerable's, which allowed him to advance from a middle 9th grade human supreme to a late 9th grade human supreme. So the side effects would definitely be huge. Although Ningyu had no idea what elixir the Saber Mountain Venerable had consumed, the fact that the Venerable could maintain his aura for half an hour was already a miracle. However, Ningyu could not hold on for even half an hour. Ding! Saber Mountain Venerable went all out with each attack. Just as Ningyu was slightly stunned, Blade Mountain Venerable seized the opportunity to slash the red demon sword. Hiss! Ningyu could not help but loosen his grip as he felt a tearing pain coming from the webbing between his thumb and forefinger. The red demon sword was naturally snatched away by Saber Mountain Venerable. Ningyu, I've given you many chances, but you didn't cherish them. Today, I'll use your flying sword to send you to hell. Blade Mountain Venerable raised the red demon's sword in his hand and slashed it down. Chi! Chi! Wherever the red demon's sword passed, the air would avoid it and the vitality would sizzle. In the blink of an eye, the red demon's sword had arrived at Ningyu's neck. Swoosh! However, just as the red demon's sword was about to slash Ningyu's neck, the situation suddenly changed. Ah! An extremely terrifying energy shot out from the red demon's sword and struck Blade Mountain Venerable's chest. The huge force that came from his chest caused Blade Mountain Venerable to shriek like a pig being slaughtered. At the same time, he quickly retreated. After waving his hand, the red demon's sword did not continue its attack. Instead, it hovered above Ningyu's head. What's going on? After stabilizing himself, Blade Mountain Venerable stared at Ningyu and roared. Ningyu shook his slightly swollen wrist and grabbed the red demon sword. He said, I forgot to tell you, not only is the red demon sword's quality higher than your scarlet pattern swords, but it's also produced a spiritual body. What? A spiritual body? Upon hearing Ningyu's words, Blade Mountain Venerable was not angry, nor did he feel despair. Instead, he was ecstatic. If he could obtain a flying sword that produced a spiritual body, his strength would improve by leaps and bounds. I must obtain the red demon's sword. Blade Mountain Venerable secretly made up his mind to obtain the red demon sword no matter what. Even if he could not kill Ningyu today, he would not hesitate. You've really lost your mind. You're no different from a lunatic now. Ningyu rolled his eyes and approached Blade Mountain Venerable step by step with the red demon sword in his hand. After being ambushed by the red demon sword, Blade Mountain Venerable's combat power decreased again. At that moment, Blade Mountain Venerable could no longer suppress Ningyu completely. They were evenly matched, and neither of them could completely suppress the other. I'm going to grind your bones into ashes. Blade Mountain Venerable raised his eyebrows. He did not take Ningyu seriously at all. Instead, he dashed out again and started an intense fight with Ningyu. This time, Blade Mountain Venerable did not gain the upper hand. In fact, he was even being suppressed by Ningyu. If this situation continued, Blade Mountain Venerable would definitely be the one to lose. Damn it, damn it. Saber Mountain Venerable gritted his teeth after every exchange of blows. Although he was angry, there was nothing he could do. The effect of the pill had decreased, and the scarlet pattern sword was already damaged. Given his current state, he could not fight against Ningyu head-on at all. Bang! The fight lasted for a few more minutes. When the 8th minute arrived, Ningyu was quick-witted. He caught Blade Mountain Venerable's flaw and stabbed his sword into the Venerable's right arm. The excruciating pain from his arm forced Blade Mountain Venerable to raise his sword and chop off his right arm. Chi. As it turned out, Blade Mountain Venerable's decision to chop off his right arm was the wisest decision. This was because his right arm was completely corroded and turned into nothingness as soon as it fell to the ground. You actually have such a vicious thing. Blade Mountain Venerable instantly retreated to the edge of the infinite heaven and earth formation and said coldly, Aren't you afraid that I'll... Cut the crap. You can't even get out of the infinite heaven and earth formation. And you still want to spread the news? Ningyu interrupted Blade Mountain Venerable and said in disdain, "Besides, nobody will believe you even if you spread the news." "Oh, right." Ning Yu seemed to have thought of something, and continued, "I won't kill you. I'll only refine you into a puppet. Didn't you despise the cultivation of the puppet that I refined, which is only at the peak of the manifestation realm? If I use you as a material, the puppet that I refine should have the cultivation of the supremacy realm. If I prepare it well, it might even have the cultivation of a high-level human supremacy. You actually want to refine me into a puppet." Blade Mountain Venerable's pupils shrunk, and the ferocious look on his face became more obvious. A warrior prefers death to humiliation. Chapter 1210. Harvest. "You're right, but it's a pity there's no prize." Ning Yu spoke calmly. Ning Yu had no intention of letting a martial artist like Saber Mountain Venerable go. Releasing a tiger back to the mountain? Ning Yu was not a fool, and he would not do something so stupid. "I'm going to skin you alive." Saber Mountain Venerable roared and charged straight at Ouyangming. Upon seeing Saber Mountain Venerable charging at him, Ning Yu's eyes turned cold. He channeled the raging vitality in his sea of consciousness into the red demon sword. Swoosh! Just as Ning Yu was about to fight it out with Saber Mountain Venerable, the latter suddenly turned around and flew far away. Escape! Saber Mountain Venerable knew very well that he had to escape if he wanted to live. He would only die if he stayed any longer. Ultimate heaven and earth formation. However, how could Ning Yu give Saber Mountain Venerable a chance to escape? As soon as Saber Mountain Venerable arrived at the edge of the ultimate heaven and earth formation, Ning Yu controlled the formation to form a light shield in front of Saber Mountain Venerable. Crack! Faced with the light shield in front of him, Saber Mountain Venerable swung his red-patterned sword without any hesitation. For the sake of survival, Saber Mountain Venerable used all his strength in his punch without holding back at all. However, Saber Mountain Venerable was no longer in his peak condition. His red-patterned sword was damaged and his aura was declining. Although Saber Mountain Venerable managed to shatter the light shield in his current state, he could not completely break it. Uft! At the same time, Ning Yu arrived in front of Saber Mountain Venerable with a red demon sword in his hand. Oh no! Saber Mountain Venerable's face changed when he sensed the red demon sword charging at him, and he quickly tried to block it. It was evident that it was too late for Saber Mountain Venerable to block it. As his pupils shrunk, the red demon's sword gradually enlarged and pierced through his glabella. Although the spot between Saber Mountain Venerable's eyebrows was penetrated, he did not die right away. He raised his left hand and pointed at Ning Yu. His mouth opened slightly as if he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, his body tilted and he fell to the ground. Thump! At this moment, Saber Mountain Venerable, a peak 8th grade alchemist from the Alchemy Union's middle stage 9th grade supreme alchemist, had died tragically. Hiss! After his death, Saber Mountain Venerable's body weakened rapidly and turned into a pile of powder before long. Shio! As soon as Saber Mountain Venerable's body turned into powder, a cold light emerged and flashed into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Ning Yu, the mountains will never change, and the rivers will continue to flow. When I find the next body to possess, it will be the day of your death. Saber Mountain Venerable, who is in soul form, left a harsh sentence before he escaped. You want to leave? Since Ning Yu decided to kill Saber Mountain Venerable, he would not hold back at all. In fact, he had a foolproof plan from the beginning. With a thought, Ning Yu took out the 10,000 spirits sacred flag and blocked in front of Saber Mountain Venerable. Saber Mountain Venerable, don't go anywhere. This 10,000 spirits sacred flag will be your final destination. The corners of Ning Yu's lips curled up as he said, calmly, "There are many souls in the 1,000-ghost sacred flag. If you enter, you can even become the leader. You'll be second only to one, but above tens of thousands of people." Damn it. Saber Mountain Venerable did not want to be above tens of thousands of people. His thoughts were simple. Escape. He had to escape from this place as soon as possible. He had to escape from the limitless heaven and earth formation and the great Xia kingdom. He had to run as far as he could, given his current soul form. As long as he found a body to possess, he could recover as soon as possible. Fortunately, I'm a peak 8th grade alchemist with a strong soul power. Otherwise, the devouring power just now would have devoured my soul directly. This time, the one who felt fortunate was not Ningyu, but Saber Mountain Venerable. The fact that he could maintain his soul form had something to do with his strong soul power. Law of space, sapling, don't stay idle. Go and fight Saber Mountain Venerable with the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag. Ning Yu did not want to be entangled with Saber Mountain Venerable for too long. After throwing out the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag, he got the sapling and the law of space to help. Although the law of space and the sapling's combat power could not resist a 9th grade human supreme, there were more than enough to deal with Saber Mountain Venerable in his soul form. Without a host, Saber Mountain Venerable's strength dropped to a freezing point. At this moment, Saber Mountain Venerable could even be killed by a grade 1 human sovereign. What? You actually have the law of space and a sapling. It's the tree of world. Saber Mountain Venerable widened his mouth in despair when he saw the sapling and the law of space charging at him. Be it the tree of world or the law of space, they were things that he could not resist. At the same time, Saber Mountain Venerable was puzzled. Why didn't Ningyu take out the law of space and the tree of world right away? Saber Mountain Venerable was destined to not know about these things. The 10,000 spirits, sacred flag's power was not for show. While Saber Mountain Venerable was slightly stunned, the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag, shot out thousands of souls and devoured Saber Mountain Venerable's soul. Buzz, buzz. The law of space and the sapling were very dissatisfied when they saw Saber Mountain Venerable's soul being devoured. Ning, you had sent them out to deal with Saber Mountain Venerable. Now that Saber Mountain Venerable was being devoured by the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag, how could they be satisfied? Despite being dissatisfied, the sapling and the law of space dared not disobey Ningyu too much. After all, Ningyu's aura and combat power had a qualitative improvement in the infinite heaven and earth formation. To put it simply, they could not fight against Ningyu now. If they wanted to bully someone, they would bully the weak. They dared not bully the strong, nor did they want to bully them. Therefore, the sapling and the law of space returned to the storage ring in dissatisfaction and lost their connection. I'm speechless. Ningyu rolled his eyes. He reached out his right hand and grabbed the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag, tightly. With this 10,000 ghost sacred flag, coupled with my peak 3rd grade human supreme stage cultivation and early 8th grade soul power, I can even contend with an ordinary 9th grade human supreme stage. Ning Yu was very satisfied after keeping the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag. Today's battle result had reached an unprecedented level. Not only did he kill Reverend Great Desolation, but he also got rid of Saber Mountain Venerable. Most importantly, he had obtained a heaven-defying artifact, like the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag. As long as he kept feeding the 10,000 spirits, sacred flag, he believed that its power would be comparable to the red demon sword after some time. Ningyu, hurry up and open the infinite heaven and earth formation. Let me help you. At this moment, a loud voice resounded above the infinite heaven and earth formation. Reverend Spiritual Sue. Ning Yu was very familiar with the voice. It was none other than Reverend Spiritual Sue. Looks like Reverend Spiritual Sue has recovered to his peak. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and stored the 10,000 spirit sacred flag into his storage ring. He tidied up his clothes before opening the infinite heaven and earth array. Boom! Chapter 1211. Senior Spirit Void. Senior Spirit Void. Sensing this extremely familiar aura, Ningyu forced himself to calm down. Have you completely recovered to your peak state? Where are Saber Mountain and Great Desolation? Spirit Void didn't immediately reply to Ningyu. Instead, he looked around, trying to find Saber Mountain and Great Desolation. However, he gave up after looking around for a moment. He couldn't even sense Saber Mountain and Great Desolation's auras. Could it be that Saber Mountain and Great Desolation had been killed by Ningyu? Thinking of this, Spirit Void's gaze changed as he looked at Ningyu. After recovering to his peak state, Spirit Void had immediately rushed over. He hadn't asked Pilguzi or the others about what had happened in the endless heaven and earth formation. So he didn't know that Great Desolation had been killed by Ningyu. I was lucky enough to kill them. Ningyu said, I threw all the Shenyang pills and sovereign grade Yuan crystals into the altar and used the endless heaven and earth formation to successfully kill Saber Mountain and Great Desolation. This, to be honest, although Ningyu said it casually, it was like a clap of thunder in revered Spirit Su's ears. Saber Mountain and Great Desolation were rank 9 mortal sovereigns. Furthermore, the Saber Mountain Venerable was a 9th grade, middle stage, supreme being. Even if Ningyu threw the Emperor grade Yuan crystals and Shenyang pills into the altar, even if Ningyu made use of the heaven and earth limitless array, it would still be difficult for him to kill the Great Desolation Venerable and the Saber Mountain Venerable. Swish, swish, swish. Just at this moment, the Dark Emperor and Pilguzi flew over. Ningyu, are you all right? The Dark Emperor immediately asked, Where's Saber Mountain? You didn't kill him, did you? Dan Guzi, the Sword of Evil, and the others also looked at Ningyu, wanting to hear Ningyu's reply. Ningyu nodded and answered, I've indeed killed Saber Mountain Venerable. However, Ningyu clearly didn't want to dwell too much on this matter. He turned to Venerable Spirit Su and said, Venerable Spirit Su, have you completely recovered to your peak state? I have something I need your help with. What is it? Sage Lingshu asked. To be able to cultivate to the 9th grade intermediate human sovereign realm meant that revered Spirit Su was not simple. Since Ningyu changed the topic, it meant that Ningyu did not want to be entangled in this matter. Everyone had their own secrets. Moreover, Ningyu was Mu Yunshan's son. Ningyu was powerful, so he should be very pleased. About my father. After a moment's thought, Ningyu said, This isn't the place to talk. Let's find a quiet place to talk. Follow me. Ouyang Luin was very perceptive. As soon as Ningyu finished speaking, he immediately said, Other than this secret room, there's another place in the Imperial Palace that's very quiet. I guarantee we won't be disturbed. Lead the way. Ningyu said solemnly. What happened next was very important to Ningyu. Whether his father Ninghai could wake up or not, he couldn't afford to be careless. Russell. Following Ouyang Luin through the complex courtyard, Ningyu and the others stopped in front of a heavy stone door. Creak. Ouyang Luin took out a golden key and inserted it into the hole in the stone door. Then, the heavy stone door slowly opened. This door is made of 1,000-year-old cold steel. Even a sovereign, in order to show that he was doing his best, Ouyang Luin pointed at the stone door. However, he swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Other than him, all the cultivators present were at the utmost exalted level. There was even a grade 9 human sovereign like Sovereign Spiritual Su. Although the stone door could block the attack of a grade 1 human sovereign, it was completely useless against high-level human sovereigns like Ningyu. It would be a waste of words. You can leave first. Try to send experts to patrol the capital. If there's any suspicious person, inform Dan Guzi immediately. He knows what to do. Leaving behind the sentence, Ningyu and Sovereign Spiritual Su entered the secret room. Bang! Just as Ningyu and Sovereign Spiritual Su entered the secret room, the stone door slammed shut. The Dark Emperor and the others were given the cold shoulder. My God, you didn't let me in earlier. I came here for nothing. The Dark Emperor was a little angry, but there was nothing he could do. After thinking about it, the Dark Emperor could only vent his anger on Ouyangli. Find the 10 strongest people in the Imperial Palace. I'm going to bring them to patrol the capital. The Dark Emperor was now a new person. The first time he came to the capital, he even annihilated a second-rate family in the capital. At that time, that matter caused a huge uproar, and he was almost caught and roasted alive. Now that he had advanced to the peak of grade 3 human sovereign, he was extremely powerful. He could practically do whatever he wanted in the capital. Naturally, he had to go to Divine Qi. Yes. Ouyang Luan didn't dare to disobey the Dark Emperor. He immediately followed the Dark Emperor's instructions. Dan Guzi, is Ningyu injured? After the Dark Emperor and Ouyang left, the Sword of Evil asked. From the Sword of Evil's point of view, unless Ningyu was injured, there was no reason for him to enter the secret room with Sovereign Spiritual Su. There was only one possibility. Ning, you didn't want them to worry. That's possible. Venerable Saber Mountain isn't someone to be trifled with. Dan Guzi was also a little worried. Although he was worried, Dan Guzi didn't stay here for long. As a peak grade 8 pill refinement master, Dan Guzi needed to find some medicinal ingredients to refine pills to help him and the Sword of Evil recover quickly. After all, they were different from the Dark Emperor. The Dark Emperor was a purple-gold sky devouring dog. His recovery ability was heaven-defying. If they wanted to completely recover, they needed the help of pills. At the same time, in the secret room, Ning Hai, Sovereign Spiritual Su, looked at the middle-aged man in front of him with an extremely shocked expression. Where did you find your father? Sovereign Spiritual Su said in a low voice. The protective barrier on the surface of his body is extremely domineering. It's a barrier unique to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. I found my father in the magical Beast Mountain Ranges, Beast King Palace. At that time, he was trapped by the experts of the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu recounted what had happened to Sovereign Spiritual Su. Of course, some things that had nothing to do with Ninghai were omitted by Ningyu. Looks like your mother is trapped in the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Sovereign Spiritual Su's killing intent surged, making him look very terrifying. Not simple. Just who is Sovereign Spiritual Su? Sensing the terrifying killing intent coming from Sovereign Spiritual Su, Ningyu's pupils constricted. Sovereign Spiritual Su's terrifying killing intent had most likely already completed the 1,000 slaughter. Without killing over 1,000 martial artists, it was impossible to have such a killing intent. Swish! Sovereign Spiritual Su's killing intent flashed for a moment before quickly returning to normal. I'll think of a way to break the protective barrier on the surface of your father's body. Leave first, Sovereign Spiritual Su said lightly. Leave? Why do you want me to leave? Ning, you didn't understand. Chapter 1212. Consecutive Breakthroughs. The protective barrier on your father's body is very special. Supremacy Spiritual Su's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice. Even I, halfway through a sentence, Supremacy Spiritual Su stopped. Frowning slightly, Supremacy Spiritual Su continued. In any case, listen to me and leave first. With that said, Supremacy Spiritual Su took out a crystal ball and handed it to Ningyu. As long as you notice that the crystal ball has broken, It means that I've broken the protective barrier. It won't be too late for you to come at that time. This all right. Taking the crystal ball, Ningyu opened his mouth slightly, wanting to say something. However, when he saw Supremacy Spiritual Su's determined expression, he did not continue. Creak. Although Ningyu had decided to leave the room, he was not a rash person. Before he left, he quietly left behind a wisp of soul force. Subsequently, Ningyu pushed open the door and walked out. Sigh. Looking at Ningyu's departing figure, Supremacy Spiritual Su sighed softly and murmured, "The problem that's troubling Ningyu isn't just the protective barrier." Swish. Supremacy Spiritual Su was not an indecisive person. Waving both hands, he first set up a small formation and then began to break the protective barrier on Ninghai's body. At the same time, in another room right next to it, with a thought, Ningyu released Lu Wei from his storage ring. Right now, Lu Wei looked no different from a normal person. However, Ningyu knew very well that Su Yan's terrifying vitality still remained in Lu Wei's consciousness. Like Lu Wei, Su Yan also had an extreme Yin body. Last time, before Su Yun blew himself up, he injected the qi in his body into Lu Xuan's mind and helped Lu Xuan reach the peak of the manifestation realm. Furthermore, a whirlpool had appeared in Lu Wei's sea of consciousness. All the excess primordial qi had entered the whirlpool and lay dormant. Back then, Ningyu had already speculated that as long as Lu Wei could refine that much essence qi, her cultivation would very likely reach the 4th or 5th grade sovereign realm. Help Lu Wei refine her yuan qi. When they left the Beast King's palace, Ningyu was only at the initial stage human supremacy and was unable to help Lu Wei at all. Now that Ningyu had advanced to the peak 3rd grade human sovereign, his soul power had also increased from the middle 7th grade to the early 8th grade. In this state, Ningyu was very confident that he could help Lu Wei and help Lu Wei refine the yuan qi in her sea of consciousness. Whoosh! Ningyu was not an indecisive person. If he said he would do it, he would do it. First, he placed Lu Wei on the chair. Then, Ningyu unleashed his powerful perception and slowly entered Lu Wei's sea of consciousness. Ningyu's speed was not fast. He entered bit by bit. Last time, Ningyu had seen how terrifying the yuan qi in Lu Wei's sea of consciousness was. Therefore, he did not dare to relax this time. If he relaxed even a little, he might die a horrible death. Chi-chi. However, the moment Ningyu's soul power entered Lu Wei's sea of consciousness, a chi-chi sound erupted. Whoosh! Then, a terrifying whirlpool appeared again. Oh no! With the appearance of the whirlpool, Ningyu realized the seriousness of the problem, because he discovered that the soul power that he had left in Lu Wei's sea of consciousness was actually being openly devoured by the whirlpool. If the whirlpool had only devoured Ningyu's soul power, Ningyu would not have been so shocked. What shocked Ningyu was that the devouring power emitted from the whirlpool seemed to have locked onto him. It had already moved from Lu Wei's sea of consciousness to his body. Even if Ningyu was prepared, he still felt a little troubled facing the terrifying devouring power. Law of space, sapling. At the critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly communicated with the sapling and the law of space. Don't you have strong devouring power? I have the sapling and the law of space. I don't believe you can be stronger than me. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sapling and the law of space did not drop the ball. They instantly flew out from the storage ring and floated above Ningyu's head. 2 devouring powers that were not weaker than the ones emitted from the whirlpool began to fight on Ningyu's body. 3 types of devouring power. 1 came from the whirlpool, 1 came from the sapling, and 1 came from the law of space. Even though it was 1 against 2, the devouring power emitted from the whirlpool was not at a disadvantage at all. What's going on? At this moment, Ningyu was a little confused. Why was the whirlpool in Lu Wei's sea of consciousness so powerful? It could actually contend with the sapling and the law of space. Whoosh, whoosh. Time flew by, and 3 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 minutes, Ningyu experienced what it meant to have ice and fire at the same time. In the first 2 minutes, the sapling and the law of space were still able to contend with the devouring power emitted from the whirlpool. But as time passed, especially after the 3rd minute, the situation suddenly changed. The sapling and the law of space only lasted for 3 minutes before they declared defeat and returned to the storage ring. Come back, all of you come back. Seeing the sapling and the law of space flee in panic, Ningyu gritted his teeth in anger. When they were fighting for essence crystals and energy, the two of them worked very hard. Now that they were in danger, they chose to flee. After we get through this crisis, I'll definitely teach you a lesson. After saying that, Ningyu began to resist the terrifying devouring power emitted from the whirlpool. Bang! At this moment, a muffled sound rang out in Lu Wei's mind. Boom! Immediately after, a terrifying aura surged into the sky. Paragon State. Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from Lu Wei, Ningyu's mouth opened slightly in disbelief. Could it be that advancing to the Paragon State was so simple? One must know that Lu Wei was only at the peak of the manifestation state earlier, and even her consciousness was very blurry. But in this state, Lu Wei could advance to the Paragon State in just a few minutes. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. No, it's still increasing. Ningyu's shock did not last long before he realized that Lu Wei's aura was still increasing. Early stage, 1st grade human supremacy. Mid-stage, 1st grade human supremacy. The speed at which Lu Wei's aura was increasing was indeed a little terrifying. Bang! Not long after, a muffled sound was heard. Lu Wei's cultivation had also completely reached the 2nd grade human supremacy state. Ordinary martial artists would need several years or even decades to advance from the 1st grade human supremacy state to the 2nd grade human supremacy state. Even the most talented martial artists would need about a year. But Lu Wei only took a few minutes to advance from the 1st grade human supremacy state to the 2nd grade human supremacy state. Gulp. The rapid increase in Lu Wei's aura made Ningyu swallow a mouthful of saliva uncontrollably. Could it be? What shocked Ningyu was yet to come. Ningyu was surprised to find that Lu Wei's aura did not show any signs of weakening after advancing to the 2nd grade human supremacy state, but was still rapidly increasing. Bang! His mouth opened wide enough to fit a fist. Ningyu was completely dumbfounded. Lu Wei had actually advanced to the 3rd grade human supremacy state. This was unprecedented. This was truly unprecedented. Ning, you had never encountered such a thing before. What the F***? In the next moment, Ning Yu directly cursed. As a person who had lived 2 lives, he had seen a lot of the world. There had never been anything like this that had shocked him so much, because Lu Wei of the 3rd grade human supremacy state. Chapter 12:13. The mantis stalks the cicada crack. Ning Yu's shocked expression didn't last long before he was attracted by a crisp sound. He saw Lu Wei suddenly open her eyes, and an extremely crisp sound came from her sea of consciousness. Rumble. The result naturally didn't need to be described. 4th grade, human sovereign. At this moment, Lu Wei advanced from 3rd grade, human sovereign, to 4th grade, human sovereign. Although Lu Wei's aura was only that of an initial 4th grade human sovereign, her advancement speed still shocked Ningyu. After advancing to 4th grade human sovereign, the vortex in Lu Wei's sea of consciousness completely dissipated and turned into nothingness. As the vortex dissipated, the powerful devouring power from the vortex also disappeared from Ning Yu's body. Phew! As the devouring power disappeared, Ningyu let out a long sigh of relief. The worry in his heart was slightly alleviated. To be honest, the devouring power just now really worried Ningyu. Even the sapling and the law of space couldn't do anything to it. From this, one could see how terrifying the devouring power was. Ningyu, after recovering, Lu Wei looked around. She opened her mouth and asked in confusion, "Where is this? Why am I? What?" Before she could finish her words, Lu Wei revealed a shocked expression. "Ningyu, how did I advance to 4th grade human sovereign?" Lu Wei exclaimed. Hearing Lu Wei's words, Ningyu's face was full of black lines. "When you advanced just now, your consciousness was still in a blurry state." After thinking about it, Ningyu decided to tell Lu Wei the truth. Who knows? He might even be able to find out Lu Wei's true identity. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu told Lu Wei what happened. "You must calm down later and try to control yourself." "I see." Lu Wei was surprisingly calm. "By the way, your identity." Although Lu Wei was unexpectedly calm, Ningyu still decided to ask if Lu Wei knew her true identity. What happened next made Ningyu feel very helpless. As soon as he mentioned the word identity, Lu Wei held her head in her hands and looked like she was in pain. "All right, I won't ask anymore." Helpless, Ningyu could only give up on asking. Anyway, there was plenty of time. Maybe after a while, Lu Wei would remember something. "I want to be alone for a while." Lu Wei's eyes flickered, and she directly asked him to leave. "Be careful. Inform me immediately if anything happens." Although Ningyu felt a little helpless, since Lu Wei had asked him to leave, it wouldn't be right for him to stay. After bidding farewell to Lu Wei, Ningyu went to the next room. Sigh. The series of events left Ningyu speechless. First, he was chased out of the room by revered Lingxiu and now by Lu Wei. Ningyu was not a pessimist. After a soft sigh, he waved his hands and began to practice the netherworld samsara palm. In terms of cultivation, Ningyu was a peak 3rd grade human supreme and could not advance to 4th grade human supreme in a short period of time. In terms of the strength of his soul, Ningyu was at the early 8th grade and could not advance in a short period of time. Under such circumstances, he could only work hard on practicing martial techniques to quickly increase his battle strength. The universal palm was the 9th form of the netherworld samsara palm. When practiced to the extreme, it was extremely powerful. However, Ningyu had only practiced to the 2nd stage and was still a distance away from the extreme state. Now that he had the time, Ningyu began to practice without any hesitation. Swoosh! Recalling the cultivation method of the universal palm in his mind, Ningyu wrapped his yuan qi around his wrist and struck out with a palm. Crack! The palm print shattered quickly after being struck out. Not enough. Shaking his head, Ningyu's soul power surged in his body and combined it with his yuan qi to practice the universal palm. At the initial success realm, the palm print could transform into the left half of the Qian character. At the intermediate success realm, it could transform into a complete Qian character. At the greater success realm, it could transform into the Kuin character. At the ultimate success realm, the Qian and Kuin characters would merge into one. Ningyu's goal today was not only to cultivate the universal palm to the greater success realm, but also to the ultimate success realm. Because only the ultimate success realm of the universal palm could increase his battle strength by around 50%. Crack! 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 With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu struck out multiple palm prints. As soon as these palm prints reached midair, they all shattered. Ningyu knew that the universal palm would be harder to cultivate as he progressed. He was not impatient, and every time he struck out a palm print, he would strive to have variations. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours had passed. Ningyu waved both his hands continuously. His early stage 8th grade soul power, combined with his majestic yuan qi, suddenly blasted out. Swoosh! In the next moment, a red palm print peeled off from Ningyu's palm. Universal! In midair, two huge Xian and Kuin characters appeared. Success! Looking at the two huge characters in midair, Ningyu's face lit up. After 3 hours of cultivation, he had finally cultivated the universal palm to the greater success realm. There was a saying that went, since you have reached the greater success realm, can the ultimate success realm be far away? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu completely emptied his mind and began to wholeheartedly cultivate the universal palm. While Ningyu was fully focused on cultivating the universal palm, the void not far from the capital suddenly split open. Buzz! As the void split open, an old man quietly appeared. The old man first took out a crystal ball and looked at it. Then his figure flashed, once again tearing open the void, and disappeared. Whoosh! About 10 minutes to the west of the capital, a whirlpool suddenly appeared in the space. Several figures emerged from the whirlpool. Looking closely, these people were roughly divided into 2 camps. One of the camps had 5 people, 2 old men and 3 young men. The other camp only had 3 people, 1 old man and 2 young men. Fang Haigua, why did you stop? In the camp of 5 people, an old man dressed in gray said in a deep voice, Dan Chi kills without blinking an eye. If we were even half a beat slower, Dong He and the rest might be in danger. He, Zuokong, the Mystic Moon Continent's Alchemist Union, is too far from the great Xia Kingdom. The old man called Fang Haigua smiled and said, We have traveled a long distance and have not rested at all. Everyone is very tired. Furthermore, your Mystic Moon Continent's Alchemist Union can't send any experts over. We came to help you out of goodwill. Can't we even rest? Humph. Then you guys stay and rest. Let's go. With a cold snort, Zuokong waved his hand and flew toward the capital. Behind Zuokong, 4 martial artists chased after him and disappeared in an instant. Not long after Zuokong and the rest left, Fang Haigua's lips curled up. Elder Fang, should we follow them? A young martial artist beside Fang Haigua hesitated. No need. Chapter 1214. Provoke on the streets of the capital of the great Xia Kingdom. A black dog that wasn't too big stood on its hind legs, its front paws making a 180-degree turn, and it carried them on its back. Dark Emperor. This black dog was the Dark Emperor. On both sides of the Dark Emperor, there were 5 martial artists half a step into the manifestation realm. Since Dan Guzi, the Sword of Evil, and the others hadn't recovered to their peak, the task of patrolling the capital naturally fell to the Dark Emperor. After being in the capital for so long, the Dark Emperor was finally proud for once. 10 martial artists who were half a step into the manifestation realm surrounded him like stars surrounding the moon. Ouyang Luan. After patrolling for about half an hour, the Dark Emperor felt bored. Whoosh! Ouyang Luan had been following beside the Dark Emperor. Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, he hurriedly tore open the void and appeared. You take them to other places to patrol. I'll just walk around. The Dark Emperor waved his hand and said, Remember, if anything happens, inform me immediately. Remember not to be impulsive. Yes, yes. Ouyang Luan hurriedly nodded. Following behind the Dark Emperor, a pinnacle 3rd-grade sovereign, Ouyang Luan felt a little pressured. Now that he heard the Dark Emperor's words, he immediately led the 10 half-step manifestation realm martial artists and left the area. Boring. After Ouyang Luan and the others left, the Dark Emperor moved and sat down in a restaurant. Waiter, the best dishes of our restaurant, such as hairy pork and fire leopard meat, serve them to me. Dong. The Dark Emperor was not the kind of person who ate alone. No. It should be said that the Dark Emperor was not the kind of dog who ate alone. He took out a piece of supreme-grade origin crystal and threw it on the table, saying, Don't take some trash to pass off as good. I have plenty of origin crystals. The Dark Emperor acted very arrogantly. He had a fearless expression on his face. Elder Fong, do you want me to test it out? At a table not far from the Dark Emperor sat 3 martial artists, an old man and 2 young men. It was none other than Fong Guisheng and the others. There's no need. This black dog isn't simple. Let's take a look first. Shaking his head, Fong Guisheng said, Our goal is to kill Zwukong and the others, not to create a conflict with other dogs. Waiter, here we are. You're here. Dear customers, may I know what you need? A manservant quickly walked over and asked. This is for you. Fong Guisheng withdrew a transcendent grade origin crystal and casually tossed it to the attendant. I have a few questions. As long as you answer them seriously, you won't be lacking in benefits. Hiss. After receiving the transcendent grade origin crystal, the attendant gasped in shock. He had worked in this restaurant for so long, but he had never met such a generous customer. Now that there was a big fish coming, he naturally had to grab it tightly. Please feel free to ask me anything. I promise to tell you everything I know. The manservant patted his chest and promised. I heard that a Dan Chi appeared in the capital some time ago. Fong Guisheng set up a soundproof array formation in the surroundings and began to question the manservant. The soundproofing array formation that Fong Guisheng had set up caused the Dark Emperor to frown slightly, his expression a little ugly. The reason why the Dark Emperor entered this restaurant was not because he wanted to eat meat, but because when he was patrolling, he discovered the aura of an expert. As soon as he entered the restaurant, the Dark Emperor discovered that Fong Guisheng's group was not simple. The other 2 young men were better off. Their cultivation should be at the peak of rank 8 human sovereign. As for the old man, his cultivation was at least at rank 9 human sovereign. I should inform Dan Guzi first. The Dark Emperor thought about it and finally decided to inform Dan Guzi. Against a peak rank 8 human sovereign, the Dark Emperor could fight and even kill them. But against a rank 9 human sovereign, the Dark Emperor didn't even have the ability to resist. Informing Dan Guzi was the best decision. After informing Dan Guzi, the Dark Emperor didn't choose to leave. Instead, he continued to stay. The Dark Emperor wanted to see just what kind of people these 3 were. So that's how it is. Fong Guisheng didn't know that the Dark Emperor had informed Dan Guzi, nor did he care. After hearing the manservant's narration, Fong Guisheng frowned slightly and murmured, I want to see just what kind of person this Ningyu is. Under the temptation of benefits, the manservant told Fong Guisheng everything he knew, including the deeds of Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. Zhao Yong, go and test that black dog. After a moment, Fong Guisheng said, if possible, bring it over. Understood. Zhao Yong nodded and immediately stood up, walking towards the Dark Emperor. A moment later, Zhao Yong stood in front of the Dark Emperor. Elder Fong wants you to go over. Zhao Yong didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Who is Elder Fong? I don't know him, and I don't want to go over, the Dark Emperor said indifferently. Whether you go over or not is not up to you. Zhao Yong's eyes turned cold. As soon as the word you landed, Zhao Yong's right hand brought with it a violent gust of energy and punched towards the Dark Emperor's head. Although Zhao Yong didn't use his full strength in this punch, an ordinary rank 3 human sovereign wouldn't be able to block it. How strong can a black dog be? Zhao Yong didn't believe it. Just now, the manservant had praised the Dark Emperor to the heavens, saying how powerful he was. In his view, the Dark Emperor was only a peak rank 3 human sovereign. With his cultivation at rank 8 human sovereign. If he couldn't even deal with the Dark Emperor, then he would be no different from trash. Therefore, Zhao Yong decided to use force to subdue the Dark Emperor. You're courting death. Just because the Dark Emperor didn't want to make a move didn't mean that others could provoke him. Although he was only a peak rank 3 human sovereign, he was one of the 5 absolute geniuses, just like Ningyu. Who was Zhao Yong? A mere pinnacle rank 8 human sovereign. Zhao Yong was still lacking if he wanted to deal with him. Swinging his tail, he heavily whipped Zhao Yong's wrist. Piak! A crisp sound rang out. Voila! In an instant, the cultivators in the inn scattered in all directions. They had witnessed the Dark Emperor's reputation. Now that someone was fighting the Dark Emperor, they didn't want to be a living target. Arg! The intense pain coming from his wrist and the huge bloody mark on it caused Zhao Yong to let out a hysterical scream. Damn dog, I'll skin you alive! Zhao Yong raged. His strength wasn't stronger than the Dark Emperor in the first place. In addition, he did not use his full strength in that move, while the Dark Emperor had used 100% of his strength. Defeat was unavoidable. Zhao Yong, who had flown into a rage out of humiliation, stomped his feet on the ground and charged forth once again. In order to get back at him, Zhao Yong had used his full strength in this punch without holding back. It was so much so that Zhao Yong had even wrapped his soul energy around his wrist and smashed it towards the Dark Emperor's head. Zhao Yong was too rash. That dog is only a pinnacle rank 3 human sovereign. How strong can it be? Beside Fong Guisheng, Wang Song was a little unhappy as he said, "This move of Zhao Yong's will probably shatter that dog's skull." Zhao Yong and Wang Song had been fighting openly and covertly all year round. Chapter 12:15. Chapter 12:15. Suicide. Do you really think that Zhao Yong can defeat that black dog? Fong Guisheng's words sounded out beside Wang Song's ears without joy or sorrow. Hearing that, Wang Song was first stunned, then said doubtfully, "Zhao Yong's martial strength is only slightly weaker than mine. Dealing with that black dog should be more than easy." Hoo-hoo. Smiling, Fong Guisheng did not continue speaking. Could it be that Zhao Yong being repelled wasn't because of carelessness? Wang Song's brows revealed a somewhat shocked expression. Honestly speaking, although Wang Song said that Zhao Yong's martial strength was inferior to his, the actual situation was that he and Zhao Yong were evenly matched. In Wang Song's subconscious, he did not believe that the Dark Emperor could win. Wang Song's eyes locked onto the Dark Emperor and Zhao Yong, wanting to see just who would win who. Bang! In the next instant, a clear sound rang out. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two figures separated upon contact, each retreating several dozen feet away. Just looking at the distance retreated, one could not discover who won. Evenly matched. Looking at the distance retreated, the Dark Emperor and Zhao Yong were evenly matched, neither able to do anything to the other. Zhao Yong, I've long told you to cultivate properly. You can't only care about raising your alchemy level and neglect your martial strength. You just wouldn't listen. Fong Guisheng's words sounded out in a timely manner. After today, you should know that there's always someone better out there. Speaking up to here, Fong Guisheng seemed to feel that it was a little inappropriate and said, "There's always someone better out there." Puchi. The moment Fong Guisheng's words landed, Zhao Yong violently spewed out a large mouthful of fresh blood, his complexion becoming extremely pale. On the other hand, the Dark Emperor was completely unscathed, no different from earlier. What? The sudden change made Wang Song's expression change greatly. Wang Song would never have thought that Zhao Yong, who was at peak grade 8 human sovereign realm, would actually be placed in the hands of a grade 3 human sovereign realm black dog. Could it be that this black dog was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? His true cultivation was not at peak grade 3 human sovereign realm. What did you guys come to the Great Xia Empire for? Although he defeated Zhao Yong, The Dark Emperor's expression was very grim. Even Zhao Yong's strength made him feel troubled. It could be seen that once the old man made a move, the consequences would be disastrous. He might even be caught in an instant. Sure enough, before one wave had subsided, another. His comfortable life only lasted for a few hours before it was destroyed by these people in front of him. I wonder where they came from. The Corpse Sect, the Blood God Palace, the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, or the Sacred Heaven Gate of the Ice Domain. The Dark Emperor's heart raced, trying to guess the identities of Fang Guoxing and the others. We didn't come to the Great Xia Kingdom for anything important. Fang Guoxing's expression was emotionless as he replied, I believe you know Dong He. We are here in the Great Xia Kingdom mainly to look for him. Dong He? You're from the Alchemy Union. The Dark Emperor was not a fool. Since Fang Guoxing knew Dong He, it meant that he was definitely someone from the Alchemy Association. As for whether it was the Mystic Moon Continent's Alchemy Union or Dancheng Continent's Alchemy Union headquarters, the Dark Emperor had no idea. You're right. Unfortunately, there's no prize. Fang Guoxing said, Where is Dong He? Take us to him. Fang Guoxing knew that's Wukong, and the others would definitely go to find Dong He. In other words, as long as he found Dong He would be able to find Wukong and catch them all in one fell swoop. In order to destroy and kill Wukong, he had been enduring for a long time, all for this moment. Now that the opportunity was right in front of him, he naturally wouldn't let it go for nothing. Who is Dong He? I don't know him. The Dark Emperor said coldly. Sigh, it seems like you won't cry until you see the coffin. With a light sigh, Fang Guoxing said, I originally planned to let you live, but since you're so stubborn, I can only send you to heaven. With that, Fang Guoxing released his aura and frantically pressed down on the Dark Emperor. Crack, crack. Fang Guoxing's aura was extremely terrifying, causing the Dark Emperor's legs to bend, as though he was about to kneel down. Who are those three? Why did they dare to do that to the Dark Emperor? I'm not sure, but since they dared to do that to the Dark Emperor, it means that their backing is very strong. In the Great Xia Kingdom, who else has a stronger backing than the Dark Emperor? The royal family and Danwu College are both the Dark Emperor's backing. Danwu College and the royal family are nothing. The most important thing is Ningyu. Ningyu is a supreme realm martial artist. In the entire Great Xia Kingdom, there aren't many who are stronger than Ningyu. On the streets of the capital, the crowd stopped in their tracks and discussed the happenings in the inn. As Fang Guoxing had set up an aura isolation formation, his aura as a high-level human supreme was concealed. No one knew that he was a grade 9 human supreme, and they only thought that he was slightly stronger than the Dark Emperor. Are you going to speak or not? Fang Guoxing said while suppressing the Dark Emperor. The heavens are merciful. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me where Dong He is. I don't know, the Dark Emperor said coldly. Not going to speak. Raising his brows, Fang Guoxing raised his right hand and slapped the Dark Emperor's face. Pa pa pa. A series of crisp sounds rang out. The Dark Emperor's face was a little swollen from the slaps. Very good, very good. After a dozen slaps, Fang Guoxing finally stopped and said, Let's go to Danwu College. Grabbing the Dark Emperor, Fang Guoxing's figure flashed and sprinted towards Danwu College. Dong, he was a supreme realm martial artist and a late-stage grade 8 elixir refinement master. In the capital, there were 3 places that he was most likely to go: Danwu College, the royal family, and the Elixir Refinement Union. The first place Fang Guoxing went to was Danwu College. He brought the Dark Emperor and shuttled in the sky above the capital. Behind Fang Guoxing, Wang Song and Zhao Yong did not dare to be slow and followed closely. Zhao Yong and the rest did not dare to be too far away from Fang Guoxing. Through the exchange with the Dark Emperor, they knew that there was always someone stronger in the world. Even a dog possessed such powerful strength. The arrogance in their hearts weakened a little. Humph! Who dares to block my way? After flying in the sky above the capital for dozens of seconds, Fang Guisheng stopped and floated in the air. Buzz! Buzz! The moment Fang Guisheng's voice fell, the void in front of him suddenly split open. Several figures appeared in his vision. Dan Guzi! Looking at the figure at the very front, Fang Guisheng clenched his fists tightly, a shocked expression on his face. To think that you're still alive. As someone from the headquarters of the Pill Success Continent's Elixir Refinement Union, Fang Guisheng naturally recognized Dan Guzi. In fact, Fang Guisheng's hatred towards Dan Guzi was even greater than Saber Mountain Venerable. Back then, when Dan Guisheng was fleeing with the Devil Venerable, he killed one of his beloved disciples. This hatred had always been suppressed in the bottom of Fang Guisheng's heart. Now that he saw Dan Guisheng again, the viciousness on Fang Guisheng's face became increasingly obvious. Chapter 1216. Bloodthirst. Fang Guisheng. Dan Guzi's expression was equally ugly. Fang Guisheng was sizing him up, and he was sizing Fang Guisheng up. In comparison, not only was Dan Guzi's expression ugly, but his heart had also sunk to rock bottom. On his side, only he was a 9th rank mortal sovereign. The Sword of Evil and Xiaolon were only 8th rank mortal sovereigns. As for Fang Guisheng's side, apart from him, Zhao Yong and Wang Song were both peak 8th rank mortal sovereigns. The two sides weren't on equal footing. Most importantly, Fang Guisheng had already been an early 9th rank mortal sovereign several years ago. After so many years of cultivation, Fang Guisheng's aura was vigorous. It was clear that he had improved even further. Fang Guisheng, we'll settle our grudges ourselves. Taking a deep breath, Dan Guzi said coldly, "Release the Dark Emperor. This matter has nothing to do with him." "Haha, you want me to release this black dog?" Fang Guisheng smiled slightly. "It's very simple. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Perhaps I'll consider it." Crack, crack. Dan Guzi's fury reached its peak. He clenched his fists, cracking them. "You go first. Think of a way to notify Ningyu and Sovereign Spiritual Su." Pill Guzi first whispered a few words into Venerable Sword Nefarious' ears before speaking in a clear voice. "Fang Guisheng, change your conditions. Stall for time." Dan Guzi was well aware of the current situation. Before Ningyu and Sovereign Spiritual Su arrived, he had to do his best to stabilize Fang Guisheng and buy time for Ningyu and the others. There was no way to win in a head-on clash. After all, Fang Guisheng was very powerful. He had no confidence in defeating him in a one-on-one fight. "Want to leave?" "It won't be so easy." Fang Guisheng's perception covered a radius of several kilometers. When he saw the Sword of Evil tear through space to leave, Fang Guisheng's eyes shone with a frightening light. He tore through space and landed in front of the Sword of Evil, blocking the Sword of Evil's path. Bang! He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the Sword of Evil's chest with a violent gust of vital energy. The Sword of Evil felt a tearing pain in his chest, causing him to fly back several meters before crashing heavily into a nearby wall. Voila! The Sword of Evil smashed through the wall made of stones, causing rubble to scatter all over the ground. Xiao! Taking advantage of this opening, the Dark Emperor shot toward Dan Guzi. "Useless dog, you dare to run away?" Zhao Yong was constantly paying attention to the Dark Emperor's actions. Seeing that the Dark Emperor had taken the opportunity to escape, Zhao Yong revealed a cold expression on his face. Stepping on the ground, Zhao Yong gave chase. After being defeated by the Dark Emperor, Zhao Yong wanted to get back at him. Unfortunately, the Dark Emperor was always being carried by Fang Guisheng, so he didn't have a chance. Now that the opportunity was here, Zhao Yong naturally had to grab it tightly and not let it go. Roar! Facing Zhao Yong, who was rushing over from behind, the Dark Emperor roared towards the sky, and immediately several cold lights flew out from his mouth, attacking Zhao Yong. Paltry tricks. Zhao Yong clearly did not place these cold lights in his sights. His sleeves flicked. Immediately, a gust of wind blew past, blocking all of the cold lights that the Dark Emperor attacked. Damn it! If I were in my peak state, I'd definitely be the first to kill you. Seeing that the cold lights that he attacked out were easily blocked, the Dark Emperor cursed secretly. Still dare to behave atrociously in my territory, truly living a poochie. The Dark Emperor's voice had yet to completely fade when he felt his body become light, flying up. Wang Song. At this moment, Wang Song also cooperated and attacked. The Dark Emperor in an injured state was already very taxing to face off against Zhao Yong alone, let alone adding in a Wang Song. 1-on-2, the Dark Emperor practically did not persist for long before being defeated. Fresh blood spurting wildly, the Dark Emperor was close to going berserk. The energy in his body surged. The purple gold wings on his back had an impulse to emerge. Zhao Yong, this black dog's strength isn't considered too strong. The two of us joining hands can easily defeat it. Succeeding with one move, Wang Song did not continue attacking. Instead, he turned around and said to Zhao Yong, "You were actually defeated at his hands just now. You were also too careless, right?" Humph. Being mocked by Wang Song, Zhao Yong snorted coldly and said, "Don't be cocky. After this mission ends, I want to spar with you properly." "Any time," Wang Song said proudly. Roar! Right at this time, the Dark Emperor raised his head to the sky and roared. Immediately, the purple gold wings on his back completely surfaced. What? Heaven-devouring dog. Purple gold heaven-devouring dog. The sudden change made Wang Song and Zhao Yong open their mouths slightly, their faces revealing astonished looks. Ha ha ha! Fang Guisheng was different from Wang Song they all. After a brief moment of shock, Fang Guisheng laughed wildly and said, "Originally, I thought that the unexpected harvest of the great Xia Kingdom trip this time was capturing Dan Guzi. Looking at it now, I was wrong, ridiculously wrong. Purple gold heaven-devouring dog. Ha ha ha! Purple gold heaven-devouring dog. Ha ha ha! One can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it without even looking for it." Fang Guisheng nearly went crazy. The reason why he would leave the Alchemy Association's headquarters and head to the profound moon continent, the goal was to find the heaven-devouring dog. There was a powerhouse in the Alchemy Association's headquarters that was injured and urgently needed the medicinal pills refined by the heaven-devouring dog to be able to be treated. Originally, Fang Guisheng thought that there was no way. Who would have thought that when the mountain was at the end of the road, there would be light at the end of the tunnel? Encountering the heaven-devouring dog here. Furthermore, it was the purple gold heaven-devouring dog. Zhao Yong, Wang Song, go and capture that black dog. Remember, capture it alive. Fang Guisheng did not let excitement get to his head. He knew what he had to do now. Understood. Zhao Yong and Wang Song's brows also revealed excited looks. When they left the Alchemy Association, the upper echelons told them before that as long as they could find the heaven-devouring dog, there would definitely be heavy rewards when they returned. As if seeing the hope of advancing to a Grade 9 Human Supreme, Grade 9 Alchemy Master, Zhao Yong and Wang Song instantly tore through the void, one left and one right, assaulting the Dark Emperor. Rumble. Since they wanted to capture it alive, then Zhao Yong and Wang Song, the two of them, did not deal a killing blow. Instead, they unleashed their auras, pressuring towards the Dark Emperor. Being pressured by Zhao Yong and Wang Song's auras, the Dark Emperor's expression was extremely gloomy. Going all out, the violet gold wings on his back flapped, The Dark Emperor forcefully endured the two terrifying auras, engaging in a great battle with Zhao Yong and Wang Song. Xialan, you take the Sword of Evil and leave first. I'll hold him back here. Turning his head to look at the Dark Emperor's battlefield, Dan Guzi sucked in a deep breath, revealing a resolute expression. After transforming into his original body, the Dark Emperor's combat power had risen considerably. Although he was still not Zhao Yong and Wang Song's match, at the very least he would not be defeated within a short period of time. As for the Sword of Evil and Xialan, they could not help much even if they stayed behind. They would only add to the chaos. It was better to hurry and inform Ningyu of the situation over here. As for him, he repeatedly waved his hands, opening his mouth and spitting out several drops of essence blood. Bloodthirst art. Dan Guzi's eyes turned cold. In the next instant, several drops of essence blood directly exploded in front of him. Following the explosion of essence blood, Dan Guzi's aura also rapidly soared. Bang! Chapter 1217. Bitterly Enduring. Haha, it's been so long since we last met. Your bloodthirst art seems to have weakened quite a bit. Fong Guesheng seemed to have long since expected that Dan Guzi would have such a trick up his sleeve. So when Dan Guzi's aura rose to the mid-rank 9 sovereign realm, he wasn't the slightest bit shocked. Back then, you were only a peak rank 8 sovereign. Using the bloodthirst art, you were able to raise your aura to the peak of the early rank 9 sovereign realm. Now you've regressed greatly. Furthermore, Fong Guesheng paused for a moment and then continued, if my guess is correct, you don't have a bloodthirst pill on you, right? Without a bloodthirst pill, half an hour from now, when the bloodthirst art's effect is at its weakest, all your meridians will snap and you'll die. I don't need you to tell me whether all my meridians will snap or not. Dan Guzi's expression was extremely calm, so calm that it was a bit frightening. However, Dan Guzi was only calm on the surface. Inside, he was extremely worried. Fong Guisheng's understanding of him had already reached the peak. Back then, he had killed Fong Guisheng's beloved disciple, causing Fong Guisheng to furiously investigate him. Fong Guesheng even had a thorough understanding of his unique bloodthirst art. Now that Fong Guisheng had a chance to capture him, he definitely wouldn't give it up so easily. So there would definitely be a fierce battle today. Dan Guzi had already thrown his life to the back of his mind. As long as he could endure until Ningyu and Spirit Void arrived, he would still have a chance of surviving. If he couldn't endure until Ningyu and Spirit Void arrived, he would definitely die. Let's go! Xialan knew how serious this matter was. She took advantage of Dan Guzi and Fong Guisheng's conversation to grab the Sword of Evil's shoulder, tear open space, and enter. Crack! The void shattered, and Xialan and Sword Evil Venerable disappeared in an instant. Go! Fong Guisheng didn't seem to care about Xialan and the Sword of Evil's disappearance. But as his voice rang out, he also merged into the void. Not good. Seeing Fong Guesheng merge into the void, Dan Guzi's expression completely changed. Xialan, hurry! Bang! Bang! However, before Dan Guzi could finish speaking, he came to a sudden stop. Two figures bounced out of the void and landed heavily on the ground. Pucci! Pucci! Both of them spat out a mouthful of blood, and their auras plummeted to rock bottom in an instant. Sword of Evil, Xialan. These two cultivators were none other than Xialan and Sword Venerable, who were trying to escape from this area. Unexpectedly, Fong Guisheng had been waiting for this moment. Two consecutive punches landed on Xialan and the Sword of Evil's chests, severely injuring them. Dan Guzi, let me see just how much you've improved after all these years. Having successfully blown away Xialan and the Sword of Evil, Fong Guisheng raised his eyebrows and charged at Dan Guzi. Damn it! Looking at the incoming Fang Guosheng, Dan Guzi cursed inside. He hastily poured his mental seas far away go into his wrist, and his fist collided with Fang Guosheng's. Bang! An extremely clear sound rang out. Then the two figures rapidly retreated. In the first exchange, both sides had been evenly matched. Neither had been able to do anything to the other. Not bad, not bad. You're pretty strong. You were actually able to block 50% of my power. Fang Guosheng rubbed his slightly sore fist. You won't be so lucky next, because I'll be using 100% of my power. Fang Guosheng's eyes shone with a frightening light. He tore through the void and instantly appeared in front of Dan Guzi. The violet yuan qi on his fist gradually expanded in Dan Guzi's eyes. In the end, it slammed into Dan Guzi's chest. Bang! Struck by Fang Guosheng's terrifying punch, Dan Guzi's entire body began to sway as if he would collapse. It seems your bloodthirst art isn't good enough. Seeing Dan Guzi's miserable appearance, Fang Guosheng's lips curved. Since that's the case, I'll send you to hell. Bloodthirst art, ultimate profundity. Dan Guzi automatically ignored Fang Guosheng's mockery. He repeatedly waved his hands, and several drops of essence, blood flew out and floated above his head. In order to increase his strength, Dan Guzi didn't hesitate to use the most terrifying move of the bloodthirst art, the ultimate profundity. Madman, you really are a madman. Although Fang Guosheng's combat power far surpassed Dan Guzi's, after seeing Dan Guzi use the ultimate profundity, he didn't even say a word. He directly chose to retreat. The reason the ultimate profundity was called the ultimate profundity was because of how terrifying it was. In order to use this move, Dan Guzi had even forced out all the essence blood in his body. It was easy to imagine how terrifying a move that consumed all the essence blood of an early rank 9 sovereign was. Fang Guosheng, I'll take you down with me today. After igniting all his essence blood, Dan Guzi's aura once more began to rise at a terrifying speed. 9th grade intermediate human supreme martial artist. 9th grade peak intermediate human supreme martial artist. Bang! Following a muffled explosion, Dan Guzi's aura broke through his limit and reached the terrifying late rank 9 sovereign realm. Through their previous exchange, Dan Guzi had realized that although Fang Guosheng was strong, he still wasn't a late rank 9 sovereign. Fang Guosheng's cultivation base was only at the peak of the mid rank 9 sovereign realm. His strength was still a bit off from the late rank 9 sovereign realm. Otherwise, Dan Guzi definitely wouldn't have used the ultimate profundity. Fang Guosheng was very clear on the current situation. He knew that if he just kept running, there was no way he could escape. After cursing under his breath, Fang Guosheng took out a scroll from his bosom and threw it into the air. Explode! With a flick of his finger, a cold light shot out and struck the scroll. The scroll collided with the cold light and immediately exploded. Rumble! Once the scroll exploded, a terrifying shockwave spread out with Dan Guzi at the center. Ah, my eyes. My arm. Who saw my arm? My leg. You stepped on my leg. Just what the hell is that scroll? Why is the shockwave so strong? Ah, if I'd known, I wouldn't have stayed. All sorts of screams rang out as the scroll exploded. On the other side, the Dark Emperor and Zhao Yong immediately stopped fighting and hastily retreated. Because the scroll had been taken out by Fang Guosheng, he had made preparations beforehand. Fang Guosheng's entire body was surging with energy, barely managing to block the shockwave from the scroll's explosion. As for Dan Guzi, he wasn't so lucky. Not only did he have to protect himself, but he also had to help the Sword of Evil and Xiaolon. Yuan Qi surged out of his mental sea, forming a protective barrier around him. Chapter 1218. Save, we can't go on like this. We have to think of something. Within the Yuan Qi barrier, Dan Guzi's expression darkened as he racked his brains for a countermeasure. In his current situation, even if he could withstand the aftermath of the scroll explosion, he would still fall into Fang Guoxing's hands. Dan Guzi wasn't an indecisive person. In order to fight Fang Guoxing and buy time for the sword of evil in Xialan, he didn't hesitate to use the last move of bloodlust, the ultimate profundity. Who would have thought that Fang Guoxing would have a backup plan? He actually took out a terrifying scroll. At the center of the scroll, Dan Guzi could clearly feel his aura rapidly weakening. In just a few seconds, his aura had dropped from the late-stage 9th grade human Supreme Master to the middle-stage 9th grade human Supreme Master. Let's fight. Pil Guzi's eyes grew cold, and the energy in his mind sea surged. He quickly gathered it on his fist. Dan Guzi's goal was very clear. He wanted to blow away the shockwaves from the explosion and send them toward Fang Guoxing. Success or failure, it all depended on this. Dan Guzi didn't dare to be careless. As he poured his energy into his fist, he paid close attention to Fang Guoxing's movements. Only when Fang Guoxing let his guard down could this plan succeed. Otherwise, it was very likely to fail. Buzz. What Dan Guzi didn't know was that although Fang Guoxing hadn't noticed his movements, a martial artist up in the air had seen everything. Bloodthirst. To think that I would encounter someone from the alchemy union here. There was an old man in the void. He took out a crystal ball and looked at it carefully. He mumbled, "I can feel that the person who killed D.E. is in the capital." However, at this point, the old man paused and said doubtfully, "The aura disappeared when it reached here." With the help of the crystal ball, the elder tracked them all the way to the capital of the Xia kingdom. Initially, they had thought that they would be able to find the martial artist who had killed D. Who would have thought that the martial artist's aura would disappear completely? Under this premise, the old man naturally would not leave the capital. Instead, he chose to stay in the capital and investigate in secret. Let's wait a little longer. Taking a deep breath, the old man gradually merged with the void. Fang Guoxing. Just at this moment, Dan Guzi shouted, drawing Fang Guoxing's attention to him. What? As expected, Fang Guoxing was drawn over by Pil Guzi's shout. As soon as his attention fell on Dan Guzi, Fang Guoxing's expression completely changed. Fang Guoxing wasn't an idiot. When he saw Dan Guzi's terrifying energy, he was completely dumbfounded. At this moment, Fang Guoxing guessed what Pil Guzi was planning on doing. Block. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Fang Guoxing desperately sent out his essence, forming a protective essence barrier around him. Rumble. The barrier hadn't even fully formed when Dan Guzi's right fist smashed out. The shockwaves from the explosion of the scrolls turned around and surrounded Fang Guoxing tightly. Kacha! Kacha! The Yuan Qi barrier that Fang Guoxing had set up was obviously not enough. Several crisp cracking sounds rang out. Cracks had appeared on the Yuan energy barrier around Fang Guoxing's body. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before the Yuan energy barrier shattered. Elder Fang, we're here to help you. At the critical moment, Zhao Yong and Wang Song gritted their teeth and rushed out in unison. The vigorous essence qi in their bodies was brought out, resisting the aftermath of the scroll explosion together with Fang Guoxing. Zhao Yong and Wang Song were both peak 8th grade human sovereigns. Regardless of whether it was soul force or essence qi, they were abnormally vigorous. With their addition, Fang Guoxing immediately felt the pressure decrease manifold. Ha ha ha. Pressure decreasing. Fang Guoxing threw his head back and laughed loudly as he said, Dan Guzi, when the aftermath of the scroll explosion dissipates, that will be the day you guys are killed. Originally, Fang Guoxing could very easily kill Dan Guzi, but he wanted to make Dan Guzi suffer. Now, if not for bringing Zhao Yong and Wang Song, he would even be counter-killed. After experiencing so many things, Fang Guisheng finally understood a principle. Toward enemies, one absolutely could not let them off. If they could kill, kill. Damn it, just a little bit more. Dan Guzi's expression was very ugly, seeing as he was about to succeed, who knew that Zhao Yong and Wang Song rushed out halfway, causing him to fall short at the last moment. Oh, right, where's the Dark Emperor? Shifting his gaze, Dan Guzi's heart turned cold. In the surroundings, Dan Guzi did not discover any traces of the Dark Emperor. Could it be that the Dark Emperor went to inform Ningyu and Dan Guzi? Thinking up to here, Dan Guzi's originally dispirited thoughts became lively again. As long as Ningyu rushed over, he still had a ray of hope. The urgent matter was to do his best to persevere until Ningyu and Empyrean spirit void came over. Crack! Dreams were very rich, but reality was very bony. Just 3 minutes later, the aftermath of the scroll explosion thoroughly dissipated. The dissipation of the aftermath signified that Fang Guisheng was completely liberated. Dan Guzi, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. It had never been like right now. Fang Guisheng wanting to kill someone. The aftermath had just dissipated when Fang Guisheng tore through the void and arrived in front of Dan Guzi. His right hand clenched into a fist and suddenly punched out. Even though Dan Guzi's aura dropped to peak middle stage, 9th grade human sovereign, his combat power was still present. Similarly, his right hand clenched into a fist, colliding with Fang Guisheng's fist unavoidably. 2 fists collided. Crack! Arg! 2 sounds rang out in quick succession. The first sound came from the bones in Dan Guzi's fist shattering. The second sound came from Dan Guzi's miserable shriek. Dan Guzi! I, Fang Guisheng, said that I would kill you. So I will definitely kill you. I always keep my word. Fang Guisheng's lips curled up in a smile. His target was the injured Dan Guzi. Humph. Fang Guisheng, you're too arrogant. At this critical moment, a cold snort rang out. Swish! As the cold snort rang out, several figures shot out from the void. The martial artist at the very front tore through the void and punched at Fang Guisheng. Zuokong! This sudden change caused Fang Guisheng's heart to shake. Disregarding all consequences, Fang Guisheng once more clenched his right hand into a fist, clashing head-on with Zuokong. Swish! Swish! After this exchange, Fang Guisheng and Zuokong both took several steps back. The 2 sides were equally matched. Fang Guisheng, our goal is to deal with Dan Ming. Since you've come to the capital, why didn't you come find me? Zuokang's voice was cold as he landed in front of Dan Guzi. Don't waste your breath. I know why you saved Dan Guzi. Fang Guisheng's voice was low. If it wasn't for Dan Guzi, the devil paragon of the Xianyue Continent's Alchemy Union would definitely have died in the headquarters of the Alchemy Union. Since you know, then hurry up and scram. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.